Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. DK Show coming to you from the TDS Sports Talk Studios this morning on this January 22nd. Thanks for making us a part of your starts. Whether you are listening on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, available online to stream it up at sportstalk1051.com. You got your Alexa device. You've got the Wisco Sports App. Video stream is also up and rolling here this morning. Just tell your Alexa device to say, "Yo, Alexa, play WAYY." Multiple different ways for you to be tuning in. We've got that Shoe Doctors bullpen line up and rolling, 715-830-1912. And, it's a good day because we've got lots to break down. We got intern Carter sitting across the way here as well. It is a Takeover Thursday. So, again, reminder, what is a Takeover Thursday? Takeover Thursday, you got a topic in mind, you get to act like a producer. If you got a topic in mind that you'd like to throw out to the rest of the armchair MVPs, to the rest of our listeners out there, send them on over. If we like it, we'll throw it out there for the rest of the class to chat about. But on our menu, on our game plan for us this morning, if you just maybe didn't follow anything last night, the big news, Freddie Peralta is officially gone. He has been traded by the Milwaukee Brewers to the New York Mets along with Tobias Myers. So Brewers giving up two pitchers, sending them to the Mets in exchange for a couple of top prospects, Jet Williams and Brandon Sproats. So Jet Williams right now would be the number 3 prospect, number 30th overall in Major League Baseball, infielder, does play a little outfield as well. And then Sproat is a pitcher who could potentially compete for a spot in the starting rotation. He did make a couple of starts last year or actually a few starts to the Mets last year, 4 starts, 4.79 ERA. But for people who are smarter than me when it comes to this, sure seems like a lot of people, even Mets fans too, saying the Mets gave up a lot to acquire both Freddie Peralta and Tobias Myers. So, your thoughts, Brewers fans, your reaction from this deal that we were just kind of talking about it again yesterday, where it felt like the rumors were getting hotter and heavier and louder, that maybe it was just eventually going to happen at some point. And lo and behold, last night, it happened. And yesterday afternoon, there was kind of some rumors and rumblings out there that they were talking. And then last night, it became official. So Freddie Peralta, gone, along with Tobias Myers. Your thoughts on the move, on the deal. So, the one curious thing, I'm with Jet Williams, who's an infielder in Nats. Brewers are kind of loaded up now when you look at it from a prospect situation with a lot of infielders, a lot of like shortstops and middle infielders and that. So I'm kind of curious, and I was talking a little bit with our Brewer guy, Brandon Berg, and obviously we'll talk to Brandon about this tomorrow. But you kind of look at it with their depth with Jesus Mate, Pena, Pratt, and now Jet Williams, etc. Do the Brewers maybe move on or trade one of those players, maybe kind of get some other players from different positions and such? But that is easily a position of depth for the Brewers right now. So, but I want to get your reactions from this, your thoughts, Brewers fans. Hit me up, 715-830-1912. Quick text, comment on the video stream, all that good stuff. So plenty of baseball talk here this morning. Also on the docket, we'll catch you up on the latest in the defensive coordinator search for the Packers. Last night, it was reported that the Packers had interviewed Al Harris, that former Packer defensive back, cornerback, current defensive backs coach and pass game coordinator for the Chicago Bears. But Adam Schefter reporting that the Packers did interview him yesterday for their defensive coordinator position. And Schefter tweeting out about an hour ago this morning that Jonathan Gannon, who we knew the Packers were going to interview, is interviewing today. And here's kind of maybe an interesting nugget: today and tomorrow for the Packers defensive coordinator job. So the way Schefter put it, he's going to be in Green Bay for a couple of days interviewing for this spot. I don't know if that's something about maybe a leader in the clubhouse sort of thing, keeping him around for a couple of days, or what the case may be. Maybe he's just coming in late today and then, doing it tomorrow and such. But I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting from Schefter there. But we did put up a poll question, our Post Glass and Mirror 715 Speaks poll question on our Sports Talk Facebook page, because as Jason Wilde pointed out yesterday too, there seems to be, what he's hearing or what his understanding is, that the Packers would, or Matt LaFleur would like to talk to Jimmy Leonhard again. Obviously, they can't talk to him this week because the Broncos are in the AFC Championship game. But we did put up a poll question. If it was between former Packer Al Harris or former Badger Jimmy Leonhard, who would you want? And 66% of the voters went with Jimmy Leonhard so far. So, but if you want to vote still on that, you can go to our Facebook page, again, Sports Talk 105.1, and vote on there. So we'll talk some football, keep you posted if anything else happens to pop up in the defensive coordinator search and that. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other position coaches and other coordinators and why there isn't any news and updates surrounding that. So we'll hit that up. We are actually going to do just past the 7 o'clock, a little bit of an earlier version, a day early. But we're going to do our Inside the Training Room presented by Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. So Dr. Crow is going to be joining us just past 7 o'clock. Normally we have him on Fridays, of course, but we're going to do it a day early with Dr. Crow. So that's coming up just past 7. We've got our Tilden Gun Tailgate Outdoors, 8:30, where we're chatting with Jake Boakes, Conservation Warden, like we do every Thursday. We're going to hit up some pan fishing for sure, because I know there's some regulations, some rules that changed in our immediate area. But if you have any questions, now's the time to send those on over, 715-830-1912. So that's, and then we've got Badger basketball in action tonight as they're going to be taking on Penn State. So tip time for that game is going to be at 6 p.m. Badgers looking to improve to 14-5 on the season. Speaking of hoops, the Bucks falling last night to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Probably no surprise to a lot of people out there. But 122-102 victory for the Thunder. And they just, it was right from the get-go, outscoring the Bucks by 20 in the first quarter. It was kind of embarrassing. 38-18 after the first quarter. And that was the difference in this game when you do simple math there. So, but also last night, both UW-Eau Claire, Blue Gold men's and women's basketball teams falling to Oshkosh. Oshkosh, top 5 women's team, top 25 men's team. Men kept it close and such that both games were battles, but ultimately both the Blue Gold's teams fell, and then both the UW Stout men's and women's basketball teams falling to UW La Crosse last night. So, loaded up game plan this morning. Let's jump right into it. We're going to open it up talking some Brewers. We'll hit this up. We'll get your thoughts, your reaction. A lot of people, at least on social media, I little surprised at some of the reaction, but a lot of, at least the people who chimed in on our Facebook pages and such, saying it's a good deal for the Brewers, or they totally get it, totally understand it. It's a good return for the Brewers. So what are your thoughts? Let us know. We'll hit that up right away here this morning. We'll take our first break, and then we'll get things rocking and rolling coming up after these quick words. We'll actually have a brand new episode of the Kid Cave podcast up tomorrow afternoon. Kid doesn't have school tomorrow, so there you go. He's going to record. We're going to record a new Kid Cave podcast, which is perfect timing to get his reaction from his favorite team, the Brewers, and Freddie Peralta and such. Hey, if you're thinking about new floors, there's one name in Eau Claire that homeowners know, and that's Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. From soft, comfortable carpet to durable, luxury vinyl planks and tile, Carpet City Flooring Center has flooring options designed for real homes and real life. Whether you are updating a single room, finishing a basement, or remodeling your entire home, their experienced team helps you find the right flooring to match your style, your needs, and your budget. You'll get knowledgeable guidance, quality products, and professional installation all in one place. No confusing choices, no high-pressure sales, just honest advice and flooring that you'll feel good about for years to come. So check them out today at 3109 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire and see the difference for yourself. When it's time to change your floors, start with Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. A couple of texts already coming through here about Freddie Peralta. We got Jeremy says, not upset with this deal at all. Hopefully these guys can develop and be the next wave of Brewers baseball. I am just thrilled it is not the Dodgers that Peralta was traded to. Maybe that's the other positive side of this thing. C-Bomb says, initial reaction to Freddie, I hate it, but I hated it when they got rid of Corbin Burns. I hated it when they got rid of Devin Williams. I'm just going to learn to trust Matt Arnold and trust that these new prospects that will be much cheaper can fill the void. Some of your reactions on social media when the news broke last night. Chris says, this is good. Brian says, I hate to see it happen, but we got a pretty good haul for the two of them. Lisa said that sad that Peralta has been traded, but hopefully one of these new guys is amazing. Go Brewers. So, again, just to kind of reset it, Brewers last night, Matt Arnold and his former boss, David Stearns, working out a deal to send Freddie Peralta and Tobias Myers to the New York Mets for a couple of major league-ready prospects, highly rated prospects. Jet Williams, who is now the Brewers' number 3 prospect, infielder, and then right-hander Brandon Sproat, who appeared in 4 games last year for the Mets. So right now, Brandon would be the 6th ranked prospect for the Milwaukee Brewers. Just kind of looking at some of the reaction when that came down last night from Mets fans and that. A lot of Mets fans, a big majority of Mets fans saying the Mets gave up a lot for Freddie, and then, it seems like Tobias was kind of just maybe just an added sweetener, if you will, to the deal and such. So, but from a Mets fan standpoint, there's a lot of people, at least from what I saw, saying that the Mets gave up a lot in return for maybe a 1-year rental for Freddie Peralta. So last night, according to Adam McCulvey from Brewers.com has a piece up there where they were able to talk to Matt Arnold and such, and Matt Arnold said that his phone call with Freddie Peralta was an emotional one. Said that, quote, we've had to make these decisions in the past. We loved having Freddie Peralta here and everything that he has meant to the franchise. Also saying, too, the reality is that we have 1 year left here with Freddie. That's always going to be a challenge for us. But to add 2 players that we like and have them as part of this group, hopefully, potentially, this season and well beyond, that is something we felt like was very good for the Milwaukee Brewers. Talking about some of these players, Matt Arnold said, it fits Murph's style of player. The kid's a gamer. He's not that big, which Williams is pretty small. But I could tell you that he plays with a ton of heart, and he's got incredible tools, and he's one of the fastest players in the minor leagues. I think that his versatility is something that is going to fit very, very well for this team, talking about Jet Williams. With Sproat, Matt Arnold said he's a guy that we've liked going back to the draft instead of the 2023 second-round pick. He's major league ready. He's going to compete for a spot in our rotation. But this guy has incredible stuff, very high octane, really good movement. So Matt Arnold did acknowledge, too, that with Brandon Woodruff back with the team and such, it did factor into this decision. He said with Woodruff's recovery that everything is progressing very well, and said that we feel like we're going to have a very strong rotation in 2026. So just some comments from Brewers, I guess, president of baseball operations and general manager Matt Arnold last night about the trade of Freddie Peralta. So the rest of you, though, what are your thoughts on this move? Hit me up, 715-830-1912. Do you get it? Is it one of those that you're not surprised? You understand it? Maybe you don't like it, but you understand it, sort of thing. From a business standpoint, was it a good move? My question, though, too, is like, because I've got the top prospects for the Brewers here. Their top four are all middle infielders, shortstops, or second baseman. Jesus Mate, Luis Pena, Jet Williams, and Cooper Pratt. Jesus Mate is their top one, which that was a guy that last year we started to hear a little bit more and more about, kind of like on the same path of a Jackson Chirio. He's in Double-A. Luis Pena is an A+. Jet Williams in Triple-A, Cooper Pratt in Double-A, but you kind of wonder, are those guys, at least one of those guys, going to be a part of a potential trade package, possibly? Would that be something that the Brewers would entertain, or maybe be a little bit more comfortable from moving on from one of those guys if a trade presented itself? But there's no question, you look at it at least from the prospect side of things, the Brewers, they're loaded up with middle infielders, shortstops, second basemen, and such. And what helps Jet Williams' case here, too, is he could play a little bit of outfield. I mean, he is listed as a shortstop and second baseman, but also outfielder, too. So, but one has to wonder if that's, position of depth here. I mean, that's something we've always talked about with the Brewers when it came to their outfielders at the AAA or the minor league level, I should say, from their prospects. But sure seems like now it's coming from the middle of the infield and such. So, Enter Carter, what were your thoughts when that trade went down last night?
Wasn't necessarily surprised. I kind of expected him to be traded, and I wasn't mad about it. I mean, I love Freddie Peralta, and he had a good contract, but I guess they just didn't want to lose him at the end of the year for nothing, and it's what we do, right? Mm-hmm. I think I saw something where, like, the past 6 years, every starting pitcher starts opening day twice, and then we have a new one, right?
Yep.
So I thought they were going to trade him eventually. I mean, I'm done grading Brewers trades because they're so good at them that it's almost like they always turn out well. Mm-hmm. But I liked it. I think, obviously, those players, I kind of wanted to, I don't know how Jet Williams will turn out. I wanted an MLB-ready shortstop kind of to help compete with Ortiz a little bit. But maybe he'll do that. I don't know. Maybe he will this next year.
That's, I think, when you look at him, I mean, based off the level and if you look at MLB.com's prospect lists and they put like an estimated time and such, they do have 2026 for Jet Williams. So I wonder if that's going to be a little bit of a spring training type of battle to see if maybe that's a possibility. He does play second. Would that be a possibility? And then Terang slides over to short, which has been thrown out there quite a bit too. But I would expect we're going to see him at some point this year. I don't know if it'll be opening day starter, but I do wonder if Joey Ortiz had a better year offensively than last year, if that factored into bringing in a guy like Jet Williams. Because if Ortiz is we know he's a great defender, but from a hitting standpoint, he left a lot to be desired last year. But also, too, the Brandon Woodruff accepting his qualifying offer. I think you factor in a couple of those, and it kind of makes sense then why the Brewers probably would move on for Freddie. If Brandon Woodruff's not back, I don't think they trade Freddie Peralta this year. So they have that veteran within their starting rotation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think Brandon Woodruff will probably get the nod on opening day if he's healthy enough. But Jet Williams, I mean, he's 5'7". He fits the Caleb Durbin kind
He
of.
does. Yep.
Kind of. He's a Brewer player. I mean, it's what they acquire. So I'm sure Pat Murphy will make him good.
Oh
so.
yeah. Because I didn't even realize. I've seen Jesus Mate play in that. I did not realize that kid is 6'1".
Yeah.
So I mean, he's too tall to play shortstop in infield for the Brewers right now. It seems like, but that's obviously prospect wise and such. We don't know how it's going to turn out, but from a pitching standpoint, it's like, how many times have we seen these guys come in? And yeah, I'm sure a lot of fans are going to look at, he was 0-2 last year in 4 starts and just under a 5 ERA. That's 4 starts, 4 games in his young career. But with Chris Hook and the Brewers pitching lab and their success of developing these pitchers, or maybe, quote, fixing some of these pitchers, I do give them the benefit of the doubt whenever they do bring in a pitcher, because they sure seem to know what they're doing with those pitchers. And you're right, too. I mean, at what point, for some fans, do you just I trust Matt Arnold? I may not understand it a whole lot. I may not quite get it, or maybe even agree, but I ultimately trust Matt Arnold, because it seems like a lot of his decisions in the last couple of years have worked out for this team.
And you saw Quinn Priester come in last year, and I mean, they liked him on draft day, didn't get him, and then trade for him. So, like I said, I mean, our pitching staff is really good. So they're gonna make everybody look better than they are, and I mean, he could come in and be our best pitcher. So
yeah. Tim in the Cooley region says, I understand the trading of Peralta. Who else, though, thinks this is a reflection of the state of baseball's current situation? Big market teams trade for our best players, and we rely on our farm system to compete. How many other teams are in the same position as the Brewers? I think you hit it on the head, Tim. I mean, if the Brewers weren't a small market team, or, not competing against teams with infinite payrolls, they're probably making $8 million entering his final year, right? I mean, we all know it's just a foregone conclusion. Freddie Peralta is not going to be with the Brewers next year. And I think that is an example of the current state of baseball. Is you got these teams like the Brewers and other teams that are like, yeah, we know we can't afford this guy next year, so, hey, sorry, fans, but we're going to trade him, and hopefully we get a couple of prospects back that are going to be really good players for when they say a long time cheap. That's the other part. Brewers can probably afford one player that they could pay a lot of money to. In this case, it was Christian Yelich when they gave him that big deal. Ryan Braun, the guy before. It's like one guy they could afford a ton of money for how many years in a row. But after that, you're really counting on other guys who are getting by cheap and maximizing them out. That's why they gave Jackson Chourio that deal that they're hoping that in a couple years is going to look like a really, really cheap deal, like they gave Freddie Peralta when they acquired him. They signed him to that contract extension, where a lot of people are like, you're risking it, a lot of money to an unproven pitcher. I think it's fair to say that the Brewers won that one. They got a lot out of a top-tier pitcher by not paying him a ton of money. I mean, think about it. You've got, was it Adrian Hauser is making more or comparable money to him this year than what Freddie Peralta is getting? Freddie Peralta is the better pitcher by a mile, many miles and such. But no, I agree with you, Tim. I do think it is the current state of baseball, and it stinks, right? I mean, it stinks if you're a fan of a team like the Brewers and such, because Freddie is a fan favorite. He has been there. He's pitched in big games and such, and it's just one of those things that you kind of already know. It's a foregone conclusion. They're not going to be around for a while, at least like in football. And for the Packers, since we know that, okay, you got a quarterback, that quarterback's going to be staying around for a long time. Those top tier players. Basketball, the NBA is just a weird animal in itself. It's so individualized in that, but and maybe the other part it is too. Like Jeremy said a little bit earlier, just glad it wasn't the Dodgers that he wasn't traded to, because I think it's like the world against the Dodgers at this point. So keep your thoughts coming. All right, hit us up, 715-830-1912. We'll continue to talk about this move going forward. Do have Packers talk as well with the latest in the defensive coordinator search for the green and gold. And don't forget, it is Takeover Thursday. So if you got a topic in mind that you'd like to throw out there, let us know. All right, send it on over. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with plenty more coming up after these quick words. Looking for a great place to gather in Eau Claire? Well, then you need to check out the VFW Post 305 with a full calendar of events, live music, and a menu packed with crowd favorites. It's a spot where everyone feels welcome, whether you're stopping in for a casual night out, meeting some friends, or catching up over great food and drinks. There's always something happening. Find them out, or find the VFW Post, find the VFW Post 305 at 1300 Star Avenue in Eau Claire. Good times, great food, and live entertainment. That's the VFW Post 305. It's just kind of looking at the depth chart right now for the Brewers. If you go to brewers.com, you go to their rotation, and right now there's just two players listed under the rotation. That's Quinn Priester and Jacob Mizorowski. Now, that doesn't mean those are the only ones. Bullpen-wise, they've got, Robert Gasserlis on there, Chad Patrick, Zerpa. Remember, he was traded earlier this season to part of the Nick Mears. He is thought to potentially be competing for maybe a starting spot on there too. Brandon Woodruff is going to be on there after he's cleared from his injury and such. But because I was kind of curious, like you look at the starters, they got a lot of options. We're talking about depth at the prospect situation for the middle infielders, but you look at starting pitchers and you look at their 40-man roster. They've got a lot of options they can throw out there for starters, whether it is they try Aaron Ashby as a starter again. Robert Gasser. DL Hall has some starting experience. Logan Henderson. You throw in, obviously, Mizorowski, Chad Patrick, Quinn Priester. You throw in, obviously, Brandon Woodruff and Zerpa and the new guy coming over here, too. So it's like they've got a lot of different potential players that are going to be competing for that starting rotation. And, we're less than a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting and about a month away from spring training and that. Brandon Woodruff's a lock. Mizorowski's a lock. If you kind of look at their depth chart, it seems like Quinn Priester would be a lock considering the experience that he got last year. Then I would say maybe like a Chad Patrick or maybe a Robert Gasser. Do you throw Logan Henderson in there? But there's going to be a lot of – I'm really curious when we get to spring training and such to see the competition to fill out the rest of that rotation. And the guys that don't make the rotation, you kind of wonder, are they going to go into the bullpen? And then you got bullpen guys that have starting experience and can give you some long relief. But I don't know, that pitching rotation is kind of interesting to look at when you look at, Brandon Sproat and the new guy coming over and all these other dudes who have starting experience. I guess it gives you a little bit of flexibility if you want to do some piggyback starts or like the initial outgetters or the openers or whatever you want to call them. But it's got the makeup of a really, really intriguing pitching staff.
It's really young. I do think Logan Henderson does deserve a shot. He pitched really well when he came up last year. We just didn't have room for him on our roster, but I think he'd be a really good add to the rotation this year. And then Chad Patrick, who pitched really well in the postseason last year, to back end that rotation. But I think, like you said, a ton of options, and I think they're all good options. Like Gasser, he could be in there. I mean, we still have Carlos Rodriguez, who pitched a couple times last year. So, like you said, there's so many options. It's crazy.
This really makes me feel old seeing all those birth dates on there and seeing that Brandon Woodruff is the oldest pitcher on there and everybody else. I mean, probably not for you, but everybody, a lot of other people listening right now. Brandon Woodruff was born in 1993. He looks like he's somebody that was born in the 80s, like my age, okay? The fact that he is 7 years younger than me is really painful to bear right now to see that. That's wow. But you're right. I mean, that's a young pitching staff for sure, looking at all that. I think that's where you put a lot of faith and trust into Chris Hook, longtime pitching coach. He has done some masterful stuff with a lot of these pitchers. And you even look at the back end of the bullpen. I mean, Trevor McGill is still on the roster. Last year began as the closer, made the All-Star game, but then at the end it went to Abner Uribe because Trevor McGill went on the injured list. I don't know if they're still going to open up the season with Trevor McGill. He was talked about as a potential trade target, so that remains to be seen here. But yeah, I'm really fascinated to see how this kind of all works out, and I think it's going to be something that it's going to be ever evolving too. I think at this point, but maybe they're also set up too. Hey, we know injuries are going to happen to pitchers, starters, bullpen guys. They're set up to fill those voids a little bit. I mean, we saw it last year, right? For the Brewers, they began the season with a ton of injuries to their starting pitchers, where they were forced to have to go find a Quinn Priester, and nobody knew who the heck Quinn Priester was. And now we know who he is, and they had to kick the tires on some veterans and try to find somebody just to eat innings. You look at it now, and it feels like they're at least set up a little bit more in terms of if they do have these injuries, they've got other options to go at. So I don't know if that's part of the thinking. They got some depth there, but especially that versatility a lot of these guys bring, a lot of innings that some of these guys can go out there and throw too. So, I mean, that's a positive side of it too. And then, I mean, you going back to Jet Williams, who is kind of the main piece coming back for all intensive purposes here for the Brewers. You look at position versatility here. I mean, he's listed as a shortstop, second baseman, also outfielder. It kind of fits again. We talk about the size. We kind of joke about the size in that, but it's true. I mean, you look at it's the Caleb Durbin effect, if you will. But that's another guy, too. You look at that infield. You throw in Caleb Durbin. You throw in Jet Williams. You throw in Bryce Terang. Heck, throw even Joey Ortiz. Those are guys that can play multiple positions within the infield. Joey Ortiz was a starting third baseman a couple years ago, starting shortstop this year. Bryce Terang, they're obviously very comfortable with him playing short if he has to. Gold Glove, Platinum Glove winning guy at second base. Caleb Durbin, probably more of a natural second baseman, ton of time at third last year. And then you throw in Jet Williams with that. I mean, they've got that versatility when it comes to their infield if they've got to move guys around as well, whether it's for injury purposes or, pitching matchups when it comes to hitters and that. The interesting thing here, too, with Jet Williams, when you look at the top prospects of the top four, he is the oldest one. He's at 22, which would make sense. I mean, he is close to being Major League ready, if not Major League ready already at this point. But it gives them a little bit of versatility in that aspect as well. So, I was looking at some of Jet Williams' numbers because I think you ask a lot of Brewers fans, still what's the biggest need on this team? And they're probably saying power. You want some power, home run hitting. And Jet Williams last year at the minor league level did hit 17 home runs. So, I mean, he was a 261 hitter, 363 on base, an 828 OPS. And between two teams at the AA and the AAA level last year, he hit 17 total home runs. Now, he was better at the AA. He was hitting 281, 390 on base, slugging 477. Those numbers dipped when he got to AAA, just 209. Batting average 285 on base and a 433 slugging, and his OPS dipped to 718, dropped from 867 to 718. But the sample size there, he played 96 games at AA, just 34 at AAA. So I would imagine he's probably going to be in the season at AAA. I would assume. And then, that would be very similar to Caleb Durbin last year. Remember, Caleb Durbin began the season at AAA. And then was brought up. And I would say solid season, was, in the run top three for National League Rookie of the Year and such. So considering the depth that they got, they could probably be patient a little bit with Jet Williams. That's why I wouldn't be surprised to see him probably start at AAA. But again, where's Cooper Pratt fit into this, situation too? So that's going to be interesting. I hope, though, I don't know what they would – Caleb Durbin, at least last year, we kind of knew, okay, they're probably going to try him at third because that was the obvious hole. Are they going to focus Jet Williams at short? or are they going to try Terang again at short and have Jet Williams at second? I don't know what they're going to do. And we'll find out in spring training. They're probably going to get him reps at both those spots, but you'd think, okay, let's maybe give him a first shot and really kind of focus him at shorts and keep Terang at second. But I don't know. That'll be kind of curious to follow too.
Really interested to see, like you said, because three of our top 4 prospects are projected to be in the MLB this year or next year, and like you said, they're all infielders. And so how does that fit in with Ortiz and Terang and Durbin?
Yeah.
Because, they still have time with the Brewers left, so they all can't be up at once.
No.
So I'm definitely interested to see what they do with like a Made or a Williams.
Made is the big one, because, he's Double-A. He's only 18, but he was making some big-time strides last year. And he's their number 1 prospect. And you look at, last year he was with 3 teams. He started off at Single-A, then High-A, and then finished off with just 5 games at Double-A. But, his 2025 season overall, he hit .285. He was OPS of 792. Not the biggest home run hitter, just 6 home runs. But if that is the future shortstop, man, you factor in a Durbin and a Terang and a Made and a Chet Williams and a Coop. They got to make a move at some point for one of those guys to like, hey, we just got too many. We're gonna have to ship one of these guys off.
Yeah,
I don't know who that. I feel like it might be Cooper Pratt at this point, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They could try Jet Williams in the outfield.
Then who do you sit though? Too. That's the other thing. It's like.
If Garrett
Don't move Sal Frelick.
No.
That's my guy, okay? And they're not
Yes.
moving Jackson. So Garrett Mitchell's a wild card because the guy can't just stay healthy.
If he stays healthy, maybe. I really liked Garrett Mitchell. He just, like you said, hasn't been able to stay healthy. They signed Badu this year. They still have Lockridge on their roster and Perkins, and then obviously Yelich. But
Yep.
like you said, there's a logjam that they're gonna have to clear
Mm-hmm.
eventually.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, we got to take our final break for this hour. Plenty more baseball talk coming at you, though. We'll get to some football talk as well. Quick reminder, usually we chat with him on Fridays, but we're going to catch up with Dr. Crow just past 7 o'clock here this morning for our Inside the Training Room segment brought to you by Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. All right, final break for the first hour. We'll be right back after these quick words. Car trouble never comes at a good time, but AJM Automotive in Eau Claire is always ready. From routine maintenance to major repairs, their experienced technicians get you back on the road fast and done right. And you know what? If you're stuck, AJM Automotive also provides reliable towing when you need it the most. So save this number right now, 715-835-9523. That's 715-835-9523 for AJM Automotive in Eau Claire. Trusted service, dependable towing, and repairs that you can count on. Want to throw a little bit of an informal poll question out there, and we're going to hit this up in some more detail coming up next hour. I shouldn't say informal because it was our post-glass and mirror 715 Speaks poll question. But if you haven't had a chance to chime in on it, or if you did, kind of explain why. Give me your reasoning. Give me your reasons why. If you had to pick between these two, who would you like to see become the new Packers defensive coordinator? Is it former Wisconsin Badger Jimmy Leonard or former Green Bay Packer corner Al Harris? And be serious with it too. Don't say, well, former Badger, and because Jimmy's, I'm not trying to downplay or anything, just because Jimmy's from the area and such. That's why. From a football sense, who would you rather have? And explain to me why you want that person. So shoot them on over. Send them on over, 715-830-1912. We'll hit that up in the next hour, including some other updates on the potential search for the new Packers defensive coordinator, including Jonathan Gannon apparently interviewing today and tomorrow. So 2 days on there. But we'll hit that up coming up in a little bit. Also, it is a Takeover Thursday, so whatever other topics you have on your minds, you can send them on over. This is your day for that on this Thursday. So if you got a topic that you would like to throw out there for everybody to chat about, to talk about, send that on over too. It is also for our Thursday, enough is enough. So what is the sports opinion? What is the narrative, however you want to phrase it, that you would just say, you know what, enough is enough. Enough is enough with all the, I'm just saying this out there, enough is enough with all the Jimmy Leonard love, or enough is enough with fill in the blank. Send it over. We'll share it with everybody. So we'll hit that up too. Plus, don't forget, Jake Boakes, Wisconsin Conservation Warden, will be joining us for our Tailgate Outdoors segment, brought to you by Tilden Gun, coming up at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour. So that'll be here in just a little bit, but please send those messages or those questions on over so I can get those to Jake. C-Bomb Quick says, my pick last week was Al Harris because I didn't think there would be much heat for Leonard. My preference would be, though, Jimmy Leonard. He's been a defensive coordinator at the collegiate level where he's had success. I'd be happy with either, but I'd like to see Jimmy. Also, the Brian Flores dream is over with. He has re-signed with Minnesota. That doesn't necessarily mean he is out for like the Steelers head coaching job, for instance. He's still, from all reports out there, he is still up for that job and such. But any other defensive coordinator job, he's going to be back at Minnesota if he doesn't get a head coaching job. So that dream is no longer there. But again, you look at, okay, Al Harris was brought in. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Al Harris was brought in for an interview. These other guys, Christian Parker, even Jonathan Gannon, a lot of these guys that are being reported to have interviewed or will be interviewing for that Packers defensive coordinator job all come from a defensive background where they coached defensive backs or they coach the secondary or they're a part of the pass game coordinator on the defensive side. So sure kind of seems like that's the background, or that's the area of expertise that maybe Matt LaFleur is looking for, is a coach that has experience coaching the defensive backs and the corners and such. So, but C-Bomb really quick says Jimmy Leonard has a mindset that mimics his time with Rex Ryan. Proved it. Wisconsin will change up coverages and run different schemes to confuse the quarterback. I would also say Mike Pettin. Remember, he also coached and played for Mike Pettin. If I wasn't driving, look up a bunch of information on him. But from what I've seen, he's had a heavy influence on his defense in Denver. One of the top defenses without question. So continue to send no. I mean, if you want, if a lot of people are saying Rex, why not hire Rex Ryan then? I mean, Rex Ryan's available, right, Inter? I mean, if you're using Rex Ryan as an example, Rex Ryan wants to get back in there, so why not bring him in? Yeah, just why go for the understudy when you could go with the professor or the teacher? I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit, but it's there if people want to use the Rex Ryan. Guy wants to get back into coaching, so. All right, only got 30 seconds left to the top of the hour here. So, again, we're doing a Thursday edition of Inside the Training Room with Dr. Austin Crow. We'll talk about Bo Nix's injury with him. What the heck is going on with that injury and such? Just kind of a weird situation. So we'll hit that up and plenty more with Dr. Crow. Then we'll get to our Packers and football chat. So there is the shot clock. One in. We got a couple more to go. Quick break, and we'll be back after these news updates. All right, second hour kicking off right now on this Thursday morning. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Lots of Brewers talk to begin this hour, or the first hour, I should say. We're going to get to some more football talk coming up next hour as well. Hey, quick reminder, because it is going to get really, really, really cold tomorrow. Always stay tuned to our website, sportstalk1051.com, for the WEAU 13 News First Alert School Closings, brought to you by Hovland's and ServiceMaster. I know, like Chippewa and Eau Claire, they already don't have school tomorrow, which that worked out well for them, but some schools are already starting to close that are in session for tomorrow. So if you're not, if you don't have a kiddo in a school district that already has the day off tomorrow, make sure you're checking it out by staying tuned to our website, sportstalk1051.com. We usually catch up with him on Fridays, but we got a little bit of an early version here with Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, inside the training room. Staying warm, Austin? You ready for this Arctic freeze coming up here?
Yeah, today seems like it'll be all right, but tomorrow not so much.
Exactly. So bundle up out there, everybody, for sure. Can you imagine if Green Bay had a game, this weekend in this weather? Oh,
I would have to imagine they'd cancel. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. That'd be like a historic game, but I mean, you out there with, especially with the wind, if it's gonna be windy. I mean, you're talking about frostbite. That's no bueno.
Exactly. Right. Hey, speaking of football, I mean, the big one's got to be Bo Nix, right? I mean, we go back to last week. Denver ends up beating the Buffalo Bills, and then out of nowhere, Sean Payton comes out in his presser and says, Bo Nix is done for the year. He broke a bone in his ankle, and everybody's like, what happened? Everybody's trying to figure out what exactly happened. And in his presser, he's like, he's already going to have surgery on Tuesday. I mean, that was a quick scheduling appointment and such there too. So, from what you kind of maybe understood or what you read, do you know what type of injury he had from that ankle injury that would require surgery for him?
No, I mean, it is definitely a big question mark. I mean, so the weird thing is it wasn't obvious, right? He didn't go down on the field and get carted off. Where, I mean, a lot of bad ankle injuries are like, okay, this is a classic, fill in the blank. Like, I mean, a fracture dislocation, Dak Prescott had a couple years ago. I mean, they get up, the ankle's pointed the wrong direction. Everyone's like, okay, we have a broken ankle. I mean, it seems really obvious. But in the same token, when you look at it, obviously it was severe enough where they knew right away, which tells you it was a fracture, which they said it was broken. So when you look at it, I mean, that was something that they were able to see on x-ray because they knew it right away. Sometimes you can have injuries that are more, especially in the ankle, that are more, MRI. So we've talked about high ankle injuries. So, that was one where I thought maybe it's a high ankle injury. And that's where you get a disruption of what's called the syndesmosis. And then, those sometimes have fractures or breaks with them, but sometimes they don't. But either way, those are also usually pretty obvious. So I don't think it was that. It could have been a small break of what's called the talus, which is the kind of the bottom bone of the ankle. But in either event, it was enough where they knew it needed surgery and knew it right away. He did fly down to Alabama and had surgery at ASMI, so it's where James Andrews practiced out of. He's kind of more of a figurehead there. I don't think he actually practices anymore, but it's his group down in Birmingham. So he flew right away and had surgery. So again, it was obvious enough to be that. So yeah, I mean, the odds of him coming back is basically zero. There's really no chance that that's going to happen. I mean, with surgery on like this, it just isn't happening. I know there was some hope because there was a couple of those guys that had that tightrope procedure, and that would be for that high ankle. But again, I just don't think that's what this is. So in my opinion, he's done for the off season, no matter how far they go. But I guess there is a theoretical remote chance if it's again a high ankle injury. But like I said, those are usually, if they get back that quickly, it's if it's a low grade one, and if they knew it right away, you don't know that until you see an MRI and that stuff. So to me, this one, if it's obvious on X-ray, it's a bad break and it needs surgery, which it did, and it'll be done for the year.
So I know like a lot of people are saying, well, he was still on the field. It was just one more play. He threw that deep pass and such, and then he walked off, and you can kind of see a little bit of a limp in that. But do you think a lot of that too is like the adrenaline is still kind of kicking in and such, and maybe they didn't realize, or maybe he didn't realize how bad it was until, maybe getting off his feet a little bit and the pain kind of started to settle in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are plenty of guys who walk off the field with a bad injury, and all of a sudden they kind of get to the sidelines like, wait a minute, like this is way worse than I thought. I mean, there's an element. I mean, I think it's kind of an overused term, but almost like shock. Like you're just like, I mean, I broke my wrist in college on the football field, and like I came off and my hand felt numb, and I was just kind of shaking my hand. I'm like, wow, something just doesn't feel right. And then as the day goes on, all of a sudden you're like, okay, something's really wrong here. And that kind of thing happens where sometimes you're just like, but usually in lower extremity injuries, you're walking on it, so you know a lot quicker. But in the end, it'll be it's something that usually, if it's that significant, I'm guessing pretty quickly he knew, and obviously, but I mean, by the end they had X-rays and they already knew what it was. So again, I think it's probably a significant break that he clearly just had adrenaline and kind of worked through just for a little bit, but it was bad enough to need surgery.
Sticking with another quarterback that played in that game, but on the losing effort, Josh Allen, his general manager, Brandon Beane, yesterday said that he could have something done to his foot potentially here soon, talking about surgery and such. Is that one of those, not knowing exactly what was going on in that, and Josh Allen, played in 19 games this year, that, quote, cleanup procedure that we hear a lot about with athletes after their seasons are over with? I know we see that a lot with knees. Is that something possible that could be done to a player's foot too?
Yeah, I mean, for ankles, yes. I mean, there are times they'll do cleanup scopes where there's some loose pieces floating in there, or like a spur they're going to remove. They're talking more as like the foot. So I don't think there's really like kind of foot cleanup procedures. So I'm not sure if he has, like an irritated nerve, if he's got a ligament injury. I mean, the list goes on, because generally, again, if they're talking about in that area, like the cleanup would be more the ankle. So yeah, I don't know. I think this probably represents a more significant injury, or at least something that's been nagging him. So no, it'll be interesting to see what they disclose at some point, if they do at all. Sometimes they just get a procedure. I mean, just like Bo Nix says, ankle surgery. It's like they don't say what it is. If he ends up having a foot procedure, may just say he had surgery on his foot and never say more.
Yeah.
I would say cleanup is less likely given the description of foot as opposed to ankle.
Would it possibly be that Liz Frank injury that you've talked about?
It's possible, yeah. So you can have low grade or moderate grade Liz Frank injuries that don't always bounce back really well. And then they can do actually, it's funny, just like the tightrope and the ankle, you can do a tightrope across that joint as well. So it's a little metal button on each side with a really strong suture in the middle. So it creates like a little suspension, and you can tighten across that. So it is possible he had one of those midfoot sprains that's just been nagging him, and yeah, that is a possibility. There's stress fractures in the metatarsals. He could be getting a screw or plate put in. He could have another ligament injury in the foot. I mean, he could have plantar fasciitis. I mean, the list, a heel spur. I mean, the list goes on and on. But it'll be, unless they kind of disclose it, it'll just kind of be guesswork at this point. I mean, because really they didn't disclose much during the season, at least that I recall. I don't remember them talking about that much. Do you?
No, not. I mean, he seemed like he had a knee injury, a hand injury, a foot injury. I mean, he's a big physical quarterback. So I mean, if it was like, okay, yeah, he is going to be dinged up with the way that he plays, especially with his scrambling ability in that too.
He puts his body on the line. He doesn't dodge hits.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, no kidding. Sticking with football and such, Sam Darnold, obviously he looked pretty good in the Seahawks game last week. Says he's feeling continues to get better and such. So, have you seen, or I mean, they keep saying he suffered a oblique injury. Is it maybe just a pulled muscle or something like that? Do you think that's what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, we see those a lot in baseball players, right? I mean, I think if you think about that's an injury that pops up pretty frequently. I think that has to do with the kind of the more rotational movement in that sport, just swinging a bat or pitchers throwing. Football, obviously, you can still get some of those. I just don't think it's as common of an injury, but certainly for a thrower, if you think about that, I mean, when they throw, of course, they're churning their whole body, and the obliques are a really big part of that kind of rotation of your trunk. So yeah, an oblique sprain certainly can do that. And when you strain a muscle like that, it can be a big deal. It can be a small deal. I mean, there's always that spectrum. So, I'm guessing it's something that they're going to be able to play through. But it could be something that nags and just affects them enough where it does impact throws a little bit. It just depends on the severity. But yeah, I'm guessing it is just a strain of that oblique muscle. That's very much what I think it is.
And he might not have his left tackle cross. Speaking of foot injuries, he left the game due to a foot injury. So something to kind of keep over there. And I got to imagine, too, you would know better, but like you're talking about a massive human being, an offensive lineman with a foot injury and such. That's probably a little bit different with all that weight on there, for lack of a better word, weight, and that's probably going to affect a guy more like that than maybe you or I or the average person, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just every position has their own unique things to it, right? So, I mean, some positions, the cutting, pivoting is a really big deal. Some people it's more explosive. Some people it's the hitting. Linemen obviously are large gentlemen, right? They are big, and there's a lot of force going through their feet. So you can certainly bet that the forces there are higher. That's just simple physics, right? So, yeah, I would agree. An injury like that may be harder for a guy like that to bounce back from, just because of the forces that go through there. And again, more of even a mild to moderate sprain might be something that really could be more of an issue just because, again, the forces that are there. But in the same token, they're kind of making it sound like it's a more day-to-day type thing. So and that may be gamesmanship. We all know how that works in the NFL. He may be like, there's no way I'm playing, but they just want the other team to have to potentially plan for that. So who knows exactly how it's going to play out. But yeah, there's definitely potential he misses. There's no question.
Last one here for you, Austin. We're going to go to the basketball world. I forgot to bring this one up last week, but often injured Anthony Davis, big man for the Dallas Mavericks. He's going to be out for a few weeks, initially 6 weeks, for what they called a ligament issue in his hand. Now, he's not having surgery. They originally thought they were going to have surgery, but they're going to rest it. And really haven't seen anything other than that, other than an MRI revealed the damage in his hand, and he was in obvious pain when he did go out with that injury. So when you hear something like, when they say hand, could that be something with a ligament in the finger, or is it something actually within the hand? What are some of the possibilities?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of ligaments that stabilize the joints across the hand. More commonly are the ligaments in the wrist, but then they would designate it wrist, not hand. So, a common, bad wrist ligaments, the SL and LT ligaments. So, like Joe Burrow had that in his wrist, but again, they'll designate that as wrist. So if it's in the hand, most commonly they're going to be at the ligaments of one of the fingers. Now, those usually are basically a dislocated finger, right? If you injure a ligament badly in a finger, it dislocates, right? And then they usually will call it that. So I think we can say it's probably not just a dislocated finger. If you get up into the main part of the hand where the metacarpal joints, MCP joints are, there's multiple ligaments that stabilize those. And that can result in a couple different problems. Sometimes it'll sublux a tendon. Sometimes the joint's unstable. Sometimes it's just really painful. Often they will try to treat those non-operatively. So I do think that probably fits. So my guess is it's damage to one of the ligaments at one of the metacarpal joints. But obviously it's hard to say definitively. Again, I don't think it's a wrist, which the wrist ones tend to be a lot more serious. Those can really be devastating injuries. And that's why I said in the past that fact that Joe Burrow was able to come back in his throwing wrist after that injury is just, amazing. So, being in the hand has probably got a much better prognosis, and often they can treat those without surgery. But obviously they'll have to see how it plays out. But yeah, that would be my assumption, is being more in kind of one of those the MCP joints, metacarpal phalangeal joints is what that stands for.
All right. Before we let you go, what's your championship picks for Sunday? Who do you think's going to the Super Bowl?
The Seahawks certainly look just dominant. In their game. I think the Rams have been playing well too, though. But I think I got to go Seahawks. I was pulling for the Bills. Obviously, that isn't going to happen. So,
yeah.
I was kind of hoping, one of those franchises, just a fellow franchise like myself as a Vikings fan, to be like one of those guys to be able to get off the schneid so they can finally get in. The Patriots, I think it's just going to be hard to say. I want to go Broncos. One of my friends coaches with the Broncos. I want to pull for them without Bo Nix. I just don't think you can with a backup quarterback. It'd be a great story, right? A backup quarterback comes in, plays great, but I think I got to go Patriots Seahawks. I think that's what I'm going to do. I guess a great rematch of, what was that? Probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that.
That was the Russell Wilson
the
pick.
Famous play call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the worst call in the history of NFL.
Yep. Exactly. You have Marshawn Lynch, and why? What are you doing? What are you doing? doing. So.
That is a head scratcher for the ages. But yeah, I think I'll go with that. Patriots, Seahawks. I think that's what I'm going to go with.
All right. Hey, we appreciate it, man. Have a good rest of your week. Stay warm, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Okay, sir?
Yeah, stay warm and stay safe, everybody out there tomorrow.
Absolutely. He's Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. All right, we got to take a quick break, and we're going to get to some football talk coming up after these quick words. When it comes to great meat, go where the locals go. That's Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. From hand-cut steaks and fresh ground beef to quality roasts and specialty cuts, this is a true neighborhood meat shop and butcher shop that you can trust. Friendly service, expert cuts, and meat done right every single time. Stop by Mike's Star Market today at 2238 Heimstead Road in Eau Claire and taste the difference that a real butcher makes. Mike's Star Market, quality that you can see and flavor that you can taste. A little bit of a programming note coming up in about 2 hours at 9:30 this morning. We're going to have another guest join us, Hunter Baumgart, who we've had on the program before. Brewers reporter for Fox Sports 920 will be joining us to talk about all things Freddie Peralta and the trade and such. So we will we'll get Hunter's thoughts on the big move from last night. If you're just joining us and you haven't chimed in with your thoughts on the Brewers trading Freddie Peralta and Tobias Myers, you can let us know. Hit us up with a message. All right, 715-830-1912. Switching gears for a little bit, we're going to talk some football here because we got some updates in the last 24 hours regarding the Packers' search for a new defensive coordinator. One, we know it's not going to be Brian Flores, so we can all, take that one off the table. That dream's over with. He is re-signing with Minnesota. However, he is not out of the running for any head coaching openings that are still out there. So, but yesterday it was reported that he interviewed with, going to Al Harris now because I'm looking at a picture of Al Harris. So yesterday, though, it was first reported by Adam Schefter that Al Harris, former Packers cornerback, current defensive backs coach, pass game coordinator for the Chicago Bears, interviewed for the defensive coordinator opening for Green Bay. So a lot of Packers fans obviously know who Al Harris is. Was wondering if he'd be an option. Matt LaFleur reportedly did interview with Al Harris yesterday. Schefter also reporting this morning that the Packers are interviewing Jonathan Gannon, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, former defensive coordinator with the Eagles. He is interviewing with Green Bay today and tomorrow. Now, that could be maybe it's a late arrival today, and then, the interview is going to go into tomorrow. But if it is a 2-day interview, you your mind kind of gets maybe a little conspiracy thinking and such, and like, is he the favorite to potentially get that job and such? But again, yesterday too, remember Jason Wilde saying there is the expectation, there is a thought that LaFleur does want to talk to Jimmy Leonard. But again, remember, Jimmy Leonard, if everybody's freaking out because we haven't heard anything about Matt LaFleur interviewing Jimmy Leonard, rules say he cannot interview, or he can't talk to any teams right now because Denver is still alive. They're in the postseason. So they'd have to talk to him next week, regardless if Denver wins or not. Obviously, they can't announce him as their defensive coordinator if they do want him until Denver is out of the postseason and such. So, but just be patient if you are one fan that's frustrated because you haven't heard that they interviewed him. It's because they can't. So, but right, we kind of had a little fun with the poll question out there. If you could pick between these two, a former Packer and a former Badger, Jimmy Leonard, Al Harris is your defensive coordinator. Fans right now, a little over 60% saying Jimmy Leonard. Intern, do you have anybody that is at the top of your list that you'd like to see, or somebody that intrigues you the most?
Yeah, when I want Al Harris. I want a guy with energy. I mean, you look at his stops in Dallas and in Chicago, and their corners have played amazing immediately after he's come in.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, I just want somebody who will call play on the sidelines. I want somebody who will talk to his defense, and somebody who will, I think Jeff Hafley was a great defensive coordinator. I kind of want that energy on the sideline, and I think Al Harris would bring that. I would love Jim Leonard too, so I'm not opposed to that at all. I think he'd be a great defensive coordinator as well.
Yeah. There, I wonder if there is something to we look at all these guys that are being reported to being interviewed and such, and it's another example of a guy who played in the secondary in Al Harris, a defensive back. Jonathan Gannon coached defensive backs before he was a defensive coordinator. Obviously, if Jimmy Leonard is on that list, we all know he was a safety, a defensive back. And the other guys that have been reported on there too, all defensive back backgrounds. So I wonder, like Christian Parker there too, defensive backs coach and such. It sure seems like that's an area of expertise that Matt LaFleur wants for his defense.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna, we don't have a draft pick in the first round, obviously, to pick a corner. And looking at the free agent pool, it's not very strong at that position. So to be able to build off what we have is going to be key to our defense next year. And when you have Micah Parsons, you don't have to do a lot on your front. So if our corners, they got to progress, right? Nixon's got to get better if he wants to be a corner one. And bringing one of these guys in could definitely help that.
Al Harris brings kind of an intriguing background. Obviously, a lot of Packers fans know him because of his playing time with Green Bay and had a successful career in Green Bay. But the guy has been in coaching for double-digit years right now. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they're like, "Where's Al? What's Al Harris doing right now?" I'm like, "Oh, he's been coaching for a while." When you kind of look at it, he was with Kansas City for quite a bit. He started off as an intern with Miami in 2012. Right after he got done playing, was with Kansas City from 2013 to 2018, working with the secondary and the cornerbacks. Spent a year at FAU. Then Mike McCarthy goes to Dallas. Mike McCarthy brings him aboard as his defensive backs coach. 2024, he's the assistant head coach and defensive backs coach. And then obviously with Mike McCarthy not returning to Dallas, Al Harris goes to Chicago to become the defensive backs coach and defensive pass game coordinator, and working under Dennis Allen. But even during the beginning years of Dallas, if you're kind of maybe looking for a little bit of a connection and such, was Dan Quinn, which Matt LaFleur worked under Dan Quinn in Atlanta. So he does have an extensive background. It's not like this is just, Al Harris has gotten into coaching for the last year or two. He has been getting his experience and such. So I'll be honest, I'm intrigued with this one. I'm really intrigued with this. You look at the numbers from his time with Dallas, and you look at his numbers with Chicago. One thing that jumps out, they get a lot of interceptions. They get a lot of picks. Trayvon Diggs had his best year when Al Harris was working with him. You look at Chicago's defense this year, picks all across the board. Now, you look at a lot of other defensive passing numbers, and they're not great. But if this is a defense for the last couple of years, at least Jeff Hafley said, we want turnovers, we want turnovers, we want turnovers. You got a guy here in Al Harris who worked with defensive backs and secondary guys that got the ball a lot. So, again, a lot of other issues with the pass defense and such, but, that could be a lot of other things here too. But that's an interesting number when you see, hey, Trayvon Diggs, and I know he's not a Packer right now. He could return. Packers did release him and such, but still, if that's a number, if that's something that Green Bay, and we know, really struggled at last year, right, getting turnovers and getting picks, would they kind of maybe look to Al Harris to help that out? I'm not quite sure, but he is really intriguing for me because, you mentioned having that defensive coordinator on the sidelines and such. And I think was it Matt Schneidman? Or no, it was Wes Hodekowitz, I think, from Packers.com. He was answering some questions from listeners or readers the other day. And one of them asked about, what's the benefit, what's the difference from a coordinator being up in the booth like Jeff Hafley or a coordinator being on the sidelines? And it's obvious, too, it's like, well, you're in the booth, you get the vision, right? You can see everything out there. Whereas if you're on the sidelines, you don't have the vision. You can't see matchups, but it's easier to communicate with your players and such. And I kind of agree with you. Like, I get it. I get the vision. You want everything in front. You hear guys that go up in the booth and like, hey, they can have all their papers and everything out there. But I also think there is something, if you are the main man for your, if you're the play caller, there is something to be on the sidelines and talking to your guys and motivating them and such. And I just wonder too, we know from, you might be a little young, but Al Harris was a fiery player back in the day. Is that something that this defense needs? Is that guy? Is that, and maybe relatability too to the players, a guy that was in the trenches, that played on that field. Guys know that. They, like a Micah Parsons or a Keyshawn Nixon, whoever. They bring in a guy like Al Harris. Okay, that's a guy that's been on that field. He kind of knows there's that respect coming with it too.
I think it's something our secondary needs for sure. I think blown coverages were prevalent this year, and just to be able to kind of walk them through it at the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year have that expectation that, that can't happen, right? Just to be able to work with them. And we've got a good pass rush with Micah Parsons. So at the beginning of the year, I mean, Keyshawn Nixon was jumping routes left and right, because he didn't have to wait. But then as the season progressed, he started getting worse because he was jumping them, and then they were not throwing right away. So it was all a mess. So for him to just be able to, because that's our weakest position on defense, is our corners. And so to be able to kind of coach them through what could happen is big in my mind, and he would be who I would personally want.
I'll be honest, like I was kind of like a little, but the more I think about it, the more I'm definitely intrigued with it. And I think the unfair thing too that's going to come, whether it is, let's say, between these two of Jimmy Leonard and Al Harris, the unfair thing that's going to come with them kind of inadvertently is that I think there is going to be a little bit more added pressure on those two guys. One, Jimmy Leonard, state guy, obviously Ladysmith, Tony, Flambeau area, Badger. He's going to come in and he's going to be already put on a pedestal, right? I mean, he's going to be put right there, and he's going to be everybody's favorite. If there's something going wrong with the Packers right away, Matt LaFleur is going to be called upon, and everybody's going to want Jimmy Leonard to replace him. And I almost feel like maybe at times, too, Jimmy Leonard may get the benefit of the doubt if there's something wrong with the defense. But if there is something wrong with the defense, I mean, there's going to be that added pressure. It's the savior has come back to Wisconsin to help. Not maybe to the extreme, but Al Harris is a former Packer. He'd be coming in, and you add in, who's he coming from? Chicago, with the added rivalry now. He's going to be looked upon as like, oh, we got a former Packer in here too. Like, that to me, I don't care about. I don't care that Jimmy Leonard was a former Badger. I don't care that Al Harris was a former Packer. I don't care if that's what that coach comes in. And I don't want that to be like, it's not like college where, hey, we got to get a guy that, for, let's say, for Wisconsin football, hey, we got to get a Badger. We got to get somebody who knows the program. We got to do that. I don't give a rip about that in the NFL or at the pros. I don't care if they play for the Packers. I don't care that Jimmy Leonard is from the area or played for Wisconsin. None of that matters to me. I just want good football coaches. I want good players and good coaches. But I do think there's going to be some fans that if it's one of these guys, there's going to be that great enthusiasm, might be a little too lofty goals, and I think there's going to be some inadvertent pressure because they're just going to have high expectations for one of these guys because of their experience with Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think also it's like, because it's not a foregone conclusion, right, that the Broncos are going to lose.
Right.
So as you get deeper into this offseason, how long do you want to wait before you actually hire your defensive coordinator? Mm-hmm. And I think that could be a sticking point for Jim Leonard to where if they reach the Super Bowl, personally, I don't think the Packers should wait that long. Because you're losing opportunities on other defensive coordinators, and I don't necessarily know if Al Harris is going to get a job besides the Packers, but I mean, you never know, right? The Cowboys are looking for a defensive coordinator, and other teams.
Ian just said he interviewed there. Commanders are potentially looking at him too. So
the Dolphins need a defensive coordinator. So there's many other teams that need defensive coordinators, and I don't know if I'd wait that long. Obviously, they could lose Sunday, and then we could interview them next Monday. Mm-hmm. But if they win, it's like, how long do you want to wait?
Right. Yeah, it's that patience factor. For sometimes patience is rewarded. Sometimes you miss out on some good quality coaches too. And, the trickle-down effect to that would be, if you bring in this new defense coordinator, how many of the position coaches are going to follow Jeff Hafley? How many new position coaches do you need to bring in? Do you want to bring in and such? So, I think if you bring in a guy like an Al Harris, who would be a first-time play caller on the defensive side, I think a key thing is going to have to be those position coaches surround him with veteran coaches. Right now they've got two guys on their staff that are former play callers. Covington, who is their defensive line coach, called plays for New England. Derek Ansley Jr., who is currently their defensive backs coach, was a defensive coordinator for the Chargers. I think if you're going to bring in a first-time play caller on the defensive side, I'd want to make sure that I am surrounding him with plenty of resources from those position coaches, from those other coaches, because just to, even if it's a sounding board or getting feedback from guys who have done the job before, I don't think that's a bad thing. And that's what I would hope if you bring, whether it's Christian Parker or any other potential first-time play caller. I want to make sure that they are giving him, whoever that is, the resources and surrounding him with some veteran coaches too, because I think that would be, I'd feel a lot better about that, handing play call duties over to a first-time play caller.
And he's worked under, like you said, Dan Quinn, so he's got some experience with a good defensive coordinator, and I believe Mike Zimmer as well. So he's
and Dennis Allen this year.
Dennis Allen. So he's worked under good defensive coordinators, so that he has that going for him. But you're going to need some people to help him out because he's a first-time defensive coordinator if you were to hire him.
Yeah.
So it'd be interested to see what staff changes would come.
First-time defense coordinator on a team that's got Super Bowl aspirations too. So that's the other thing. It is a hangover Thursday, which means we are putting the topics into your hands. What are some of the topics that you would like to throw? If you have a topic that you want to throw out there, let us know. Intern's got a couple. One of them, should Adam Stenavich still be the offensive coordinator next year? So we're going to hit that up because we've got a little bit of a nugget from Albert Breer from the Monday Morning Quarterback surrounding Adam Stenavich. We'll hit that up coming up after this quick break. When joint pain, stiffness, or injury affects your daily life, turn to Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Their experienced physicians and care teams provide comprehensive orthopedic care for shoulders, hips, knees, backs, and more. Focused on helping you move comfortably again. From diagnosis to treatment and recovery, you'll receive personalized care close to home. Learn more or schedule an appointment online at cvosm.com. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Expert care to keep you moving. On this Takeover Thursday, we are taking your topics, segment ideas and such. Send those on over. One of them from our intern here about Adam Stenavich. Why is he? Should he still be offensive coordinator for the Packers? With that, Albert Breer was doing a mailbag on his Monday morning quarterback column. And the first question he answered was about the Miami Dolphins, and talked about who is the favorite for the Dolphins offensive coordinator gig. Albert says, as far as candidates, I'd start with Packers offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich, who has been with Matt LaFleur since he arrived in Green Bay and the coordinator for 4 years. I think LaFleur might let the 42-year-old pursue a job elsewhere to call plays, depending on how some other dominoes fall. Brian Dable, blah, 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 blah. But Breer also, there was another note with him, too, that somewhere else, that Stenavich has been a name that has been kind of talked about a lot in circles here. It was at the title here. It says Packers offense coordinator Adam Stenavich, name has drawn buzz this hiring circle. So, on one hand, I think a lot of Packers fans would say, please take him so they could have, a different maybe voice, a different offensive coordinator there. On the other hand, it seems like maybe Stenavich is a little bit more well-respected from people who are not Packers fans at this point. I don't know if this would be a guy that Jeff Hafley would be interested in bringing over and being the play caller in that. Again, I think, Hafley's a first-time head coach at the NFL level. Defense is his expertise. I think he really needs to hit on the offensive coordinator position, and whoever it's going to be is going to be the guy that's going to call plays on there. But you also have a challenging situation. Who's your quarterback in Miami? I think the interesting thing here is going to be, everybody assumes that Malik Willis is going to be the favorite that goes to Miami. If it, in fact, that is their target, it would make sense. All right, let's bring in maybe a guy who worked with him for the last couple of years in Adam Stenavich too. So, intern, you as a Packers fan, since this was your question, do you want somebody different as the OC? It's not going to be Mike McDaniel, which I know we talked about before. That's not happening. So
definitely hard to say. I think, Matt LaFleur calls plays, so you're not necessarily going to get somebody to call plays. I don't think LaFleur is going to give that up, but just fresh eyes for this offense, I think, could help us stalling out near the end of the year. He was our offensive line coach, and then we wanted to keep him, so we promoted him. I really don't necessarily know if he's a great offensive coordinator. A lot of our offense gets put on Matt LaFleur, and rightfully so, because he's the play caller. I really just don't know how much he does, but for him, it would be a step up to leave and call plays. I definitely wouldn't mind somebody new, but I also don't know. I would be fine if he stayed. But a new voice could help this offense as well. So,
yeah, if he does leave, then the question's going to be, who's the guy that comes in? Because I'm with you. At this point now, I don't think LaFleur is going to give up play calling duties. No Mike McDaniel, and you just kind of look. I don't think that's the case anymore. He's not. He's not going to be giving up play calling. So, who's a guy then? Who are some candidates potentially that could? Let's assume Adam Stenavich is either going to take the Miami job or Matt LaFleur decides to move on and bring somebody else in. I mean, you look at guys who are currently on the roster. Luke Getsy, he was there earlier on. He was the guy that was promoted to offensive coordinator or thought was a favorite to be promoted to offensive coordinator after Nathaniel Hackett left. But then he went to Chicago to get that offensive coordinator job. So they promoted Adam Stenavich to kind of keep him. Luke Getsy's back as an offensive assistant. Is that somebody they could look at? And Getsy was an offensive coordinator for a little bit with the Raiders as well. Speaking of Nathaniel Hackett, is that something they would entertain to bring him back? Say what you want about Nathaniel Hackett and his job, really short-lived with Denver, and offensive coordinator for the Jets wasn't very good. But I will say, when he was offensive coordinator and not calling plays for Green Bay, that's when Green Bay was really good in the red zone. So, we talk about coaches, maybe they're better as coordinators and such. Maybe Nathaniel Hackett is just a better coordinator where he's not calling plays. I don't know. But, he was the first offensive coordinator for Matt LaFleur when he came to Green Bay. I don't know if that would be an option. Is it somebody else outside the organization currently? You got like a Bobby Slowick, who is a part of the Shanahan system. Would he potentially? There's a lot of names we probably don't even know in this instance. And honestly, I would not, if Adam Stenavich left, or if the Packers moved on from him. Again, it's a great story, right? He's a Marshfield native. We don't hear that as much as we hear, with Jimmy Leonard. Adam Stenavich is from Marshfield, Wisconsin. Okay, he is a area guy, but yet you got a lot of Packers fans that don't want the area guy here. So and I get it. You look at the overall, and we haven't seen him as a play caller and such, but that's a hometown. Usually we back up our hometown guy, but I feel like the majority of Packers fans, maybe I'm wrong, and everybody can tell me, but I feel like if we polled Packers fans, they probably would want a different offensive coordinator at this point.
Yeah, somebody's got to take the blame for some of our downfall at the end of last year, and I don't know how, but it's almost like Rich Bisaccia is not gonna get fired. Like I'm a little lost in that, but for Stenavich, I think a new voice could help this offense. But like you said, then who do we bring in? Like Brian Callahan, the former Titans offensive or head coach, is out there, and like you said, Nathaniel Hackett, but are those better than Stenavich is the question, because our offense is good. We're good. We're not great. And so who takes us to that next level would be the question I would ask.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be kind of interesting. And I think, though, if we get into next week and we don't hear anything, unless somebody poaches them, I do wonder if LaFleur's content on running it back with a lot of these coaches. And another one that we're going to talk about is Rich Bisaccia here too. So, but we got to play a little catch up here. So we'll take a quick break as we approach halftime here. So we'll be right back after these quick words. Why pay more for auto parts when you don't have to? At ASAP Used Auto Parts and Conrad's Auto Salvage, you'll save money on high-quality used parts that you can trust. From engines and body parts to hard-to-find components, they've got what you need at prices that makes sense. So check out their website, conradsautosalvage.com. It's Conrad's Auto Salvage and ASAP Used Auto Parts. From salvage to service, one name that you can trust. I saw this, too, from yesterday from ESPN. Jeremy Fowler, NFL insider from ESPN, had said about Malik Willis that there is a belief around the NFL that the Dolphins will pursue Malik Willis because apparently Jeff Hafley is a huge fan of Malik Willis. So, makes sense. I think Malik Willis is going to be interesting to see what he commands on a free agent market, though, too, with a contract because they are paying Tua. So, that'll be the interesting part. But they can always financially figure it out, sort of thing. But
It'll be interesting to see if they keep Tua, too.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's going to be a dead salary cap hit. Yeah. If they move on from him, if they keep him and such. I'm not quite sure. That's a couple Packers got to decide that one with John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley in charge. So, but. We're going to talk a little bit more. Another question that has been thrown out there. Why is Rich Bisaccia still on staff? I think that's a question a lot of Packers fans are asking at this point. So we'll hit that up. We'll because we only got less than a minute left to the top of the hour. So we'll hit that up coming up next hour. Also at 8:30, we're going to catch up with Jake Boakes, Conservation Warden for the state of Wisconsin. So if you have any questions right now, you have to text those on in 715-830-1912. We'll get back to some more Brewers talk with the Freddie Peralta trade. Hunter Baumgart from Fox Sports 920, Brewers reporter, is going to be joining us to break it all down and give us his thoughts. Hunter will be joining us at around 9:35 this morning. So give me a thumbs up, thumbs down on the Freddie Peralta trade or not. Your analysis, your thoughts. We would love to hear from you. We're at halftime. 2 in, 2 more to go. Flying on through. We'll be right back after these news updates. All right, third hour. Second hour is done with. Kicking off the third hour right now. Big thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Coming up towards the bottom, we'll catch up with Jake as we usually do every Thursday, answering your outdoor-related questions. So final call for any of those. You got to text those on over to us. Coming up in about an hour and a half, we'll catch up with Hunter Baumgart, Brewers reporter for Fox Sports 920. So we'll get his take, his thoughts on the Freddie Peralta trade that went down last night. If you got thoughts on it, do you like it? Do you hate it? Indifference? What's your analysis? Let us know. Hit me up. Hit us up, 715-830-1912. It is also a Enough is Enough Thursday. So what are your sports opinions, sports takes, where you are like, enough is enough? We'll get to some of yours. I got some saved over here. We'll get to those a little bit later on. It is also a Takeover Thursday. So what are some of the topics at hand that you would like to discuss? Another one that came through from our intern Carter, who's sitting across the way here. Why is Rich Bisaccia still on the staff? And that's probably a question that a lot of Packers fans are asking themselves at this point in time. Why is he still on staff? At least, why is it not been reported either way or announced and that sort of thing? So, the thing to me that is I was looking at, Packers coaching staff and such. They do have 2 special teams assistants along with Rich Bisaccia. So they've got 3 special teams coaches on here. Yet we're still having a lot of the issues, right? We're still having a lot of issues here. And I know John Kuhn the other day was, he was passionate and kind of backing up Rich Bisaccia and such. Let me throw it this way to not only you, but everybody else out there. If Rich Bisaccia stays on this team, are you okay with him staying as, like, let's say, assistant head coach, which he is right now, assistant head coach, special teams coordinator? Would you be okay if he stays on as an assistant head coach, but maybe, kind of like Adam Silvich, is not the special teams coordinator anymore?
Absolutely. I really like Rich Bisaccia as a guy. He's a player's coach. The players love him. So to keep him there adds value to your team. But and this special teams is not all his fault. Even going back before he was the Packers special teams coordinator, we struggled. So, but you need a change because you can't keep losing games due to your special teams. And again, that's not all his fault. But something's got to change because Insanity's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And for the past 2 years, we've run it back and it hasn't worked. So, but again, like you said, I'd take him as assistant head coach. When Matt LaFleur goes and looks at the tablet to see what he does with the offense, like if Bisaccia is there, that's great. But something's got to change with our special teams. So,
yeah, I would be okay with that. Because what you said, players love the guy, players respect the guy, and I would be fine if he had I would say different role, but technically he is the assistant head coach. So, but somebody else focuses on special teams coordinator then. Let him maybe, that roving or, type of coach that's dabbling in here or there. But like you said too, if Matt LaFleur is going to continue to be the play caller, and I'm assuming he's going to continue to be like hovering over that tablet and such, you have a guy like Rich Bisaccia that, okay, can man the sidelines there a little bit too. And such. And yeah, a lot of times when you're watching games, you're seeing Bisaccia right next to LaFleur. Maybe he's like a soundboard and that sort of thing. And wasn't that long ago too, Rich Bisaccia was getting head coaching interviews. Obviously was an interim coach with the Raiders for a little bit too. So, but I would be fine if he stayed on as assistant. But I do think there needs to be something. There is obviously something that is not working with special teams, and it's been a consistent thing for years. Is it straight up the front office, GM, they don't care about special teams, so they don't invest in it? Is it what they're being coached? Is it all the above? I think we're all just kind of sick and tired of losing games because of special teams. And I know a lot of it just comes down to that players have to perform and they have to do their jobs. Romeo Doubs has to field that onside kick. Brandon McManus has to make his field goals. If they do that, we're in a lot better position if players would just do their jobs. But they're not. And I guess for me, my big issue too is, why does it feel like we open up every single game on a kickoff and we have a penalty right away? I know it's probably not the case, but it feels like almost every time, we have a stupid penalty right away on special. And a lot of times it's not even on a return. It'll be a fair catch or a touchback. Yeah, we're still flagged for holding somehow. Like, that's the stuff that bugs me. Like, why are we doing this? Is it just straight up? And I get it. It's guys are playing special teams now that probably never played special teams in college because they were the better players on their teams, and now they're at the bottom. But I want to go back to the day, years ago when we were in preseason, and the adage was, hey, you late round pick or you undrafted rookie, the best way for you to make this team is on special teams. So focus on that. I don't know if we're getting away from that, but I'd like to have that mindset again. There's nothing wrong with playing special teams.
Yeah. And the coach's job, is to put the players in the best position to succeed. So is that Bisaccia's fault for holding? Like, I don't know. I will say our kick coverage did seem to get better at the end of the year. We still were awful at kick returns. I don't really know what we were doing back there. Just throwing guys at the wall in the playoffs. But something has to change, because special teams is a big component of the game. I mean, we have a great punter, and you've seen what he can do. And so to have a good kickoff return team is vital to an offense to not be pinned back every possession.
And I think, John Kuhn made some good comments. And remember, too, John Kuhn is there. I mean, he's on the field. He works for the Packers. Obviously, he has his own radio show and such, too. But, he's, preseason, he's the sideline guy and such. So he's there. He's got a front row seat to a lot of this. And, part of his quotes were, he's like, I like his mindset. I like his demeanor. I like his attitude. You want a guy with grit? He's got grit. He's got plenty of grit. He'll get after a guy. He'll chew their butt out. Not that word. I need Rich Bisaccia to be given his full arsenal. Give him all the bullets for his gun, because until you allow him to play some starters or even some major backups, this is what you're going to get. Give him dedicated punt and kick returners, and give him a kicker that's going to make his damn kicks. Give him that stuff, and I think Rich Bisaccia will be just fine. Kind of what to the point. Keyshawn Nixon should have still been returning kicks.
Yes, absolutely.
I get it. You want to be cornerback number one, but you were also an all-pro for that spot. I thought that was a major, major faux pas from the Packers to say, okay, we'll take you off because you're taking away somebody who did a really good job at that. So you're going to have depletion from that. Romeo Doubs is not a punt returner. The guys they threw back there are not. They did. And here's the mind-boggling thing, too, is in the offseason, preseason, they had a punt returner on the roster, a guy by the name of McCole Hardman, who was still playing in the playoffs with the Buffalo Bills. And for whatever reason, yeah, he may not have made splash plays as a wide receiver, but could he have helped the team with punt return, kick return? Probably. I mean, they had that. And instead of throwing Josh Jacobs out there as a kick returner in a playoff game that almost caused a fumble, and not having Keyshawn Nixon out there as many times, you had issues. McManus had issues this year too. So it's like, is it straight up that? I don't think Rich Bisaccia is fully at fault for all of this. I do think it's part of the mindset of like, okay, and there are some starters in that do play in there, but I do think it's the guys are thrown out there to ask to play special teams. I think that's part of it.
Yeah. At the beginning of the year, like, no starters were playing special teams, and that was crazy to me. And then at the end of the year, Evan Williams started playing, Xavier McKinney started playing. But like you said, waste a roster spot on a kickoff returner. Just do it, because we need a kickoff returner. And whether that's saying, Nixon, you need to go kickoff return, that works. Do that. You signed him to kick return, not to be corner one. And so first and foremost, he needs to be a return man. So whether that's the coaching staff just saying, hey, you have to, you don't get a choice in this, or us actually going to sign somebody, I don't want Christian Watson back there or Matthew Golden back there, because we need those guys for receivers.
Yep.
And so, and they're fragile. So something's got to be done to where Emmanuel Wilson's not running back kicks and Savion Williams isn't running back kicks. So you need an experienced guy, whether that's bringing back McCole Hardman or, again, making Keyshawn Nixon do it. You need a better kickoff return, especially. And a lot of our kickoff returns got negated by penalties anyways, but
yeah.
It's,
and then, I know on the flip side is like, well, do we want Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams out there and having a stupid injury on special teams? No, we don't want anybody to get hurt. But the reality is football is a physical game. It's a violent game. It's stuff's going to happen. Now, can you alleviate some of that? Can you limit some of those injuries from happening by not playing them on special teams? Absolutely, 100%. I think the perfect scenario would be you're not having any starters, but your backups are more than capable to play special teams. Like you're covered, like they're good. But the job's not getting done. Then you got to make those tough decisions on who goes out there to play.
And the way they changed the rule, right? It's not even that injury prone anymore.
Right.
So, would you rather have them start at the 40 and put your starters out there, or them start at the 25 because you made a good play with your starters in there?
I mean, you start at the 40 the way some kickers kick now.
Yeah.
You need 20, 30 yards to get into field goal range.
And your defense, that's putting so much pressure on your defense because they're like, we can't even allow a first down or they're in field goal range. So special teams is a major thing. And we have one of the best punters in the league. I think he's the best punter in the league.
I do agree too, yeah.
So, and just look what difference he made this year in pinning teams deep. It made a massive difference. To be able to get that kick coverage is crucial for a defense. So special teams not only helps themselves, but it helps your defense and the field position that your defense starts with.
Now, I don't know if they would make a move on Brandon McManus. If contract-wise, if they did move on from him, they'd save about $2 million. His cap hit, it's not that big. It's 5. If we're rounding, it's 5.4. If they decide to release him, it's about 3.3, 3.4 of a dead cap hit. So you're saving about 2. But 2027, I could see them potentially moving on because then they would save almost $5 million in cap space. They did bring back Lucas Haversek to a futures contract, so that was the kicker that got a little bit of time in the middle of the season. So that I'll be curious about. That I would be surprised if they go into camp and do a little battle again, kicking battle and such. But here we go again then with another kicking situation and such. So I think the biggest thing, though, obviously we don't like missed field goals. You got to make your kicks. I mean, you have to. That's a big bugaboo. But it's the returns too. That's more so like in the penalties. That they got to clean that stuff up. And you have 3 coaches out there on dedicated special teams. You wouldn't think that'd be an issue, but something's not right.
And just going back to kicking real quick, you want your kicker to make the easy kicks. And I think Brandon McManus, a lot of his misses this year were beyond 50. So he makes the kicks he should. Obviously in the postseason that didn't go as planned, but he's a kicker that makes the kicks usually he should. And so I don't know if I'd move off him just yet. I would definitely have a kicking competition, but if you move off to him, you have to find somebody better. And we've tried, and we have not found an answer yet. So
for whatever reason, we have not found an answer yet. I'm trying to. So McManus. Oh, that's playoffs. I wanted regular season numbers here. So field goal percentage, Green Bay was 82.4, which looks like bottom third. Now this is McManus and Haversek, obviously, factored in there. The Jets actually had the highest. Hey, good job, Jets. You're number one in a positive category. They were 28 of 29 from field goals. Green Bay overall 28 of 34. They break it down from the range. So they were really good. 20 to 29, perfect. 30 to 39, perfect. 4 of 8, they were 50% from 40 to 49. 4 and 6 from. I wish I could break it down a little bit more from McManus. I'll have to look that up later. But I think, yeah.
He did struggle from 40 to 49 yards.
Green Bay, yeah, overall, third worst from 40 to 49, it looks like, in terms of made field goals. They were 50%.
And in today's NFL, you better make those kicks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, when you got like an Aubrey from Dallas that like 60s are no doubters, especially in Green Bay when you have the elements. I feel like we took Mason Crosby for granted for a long time. And, yeah, he did have some down years. And And thankfully, Green Bay was patient with him, and maybe they need to do a little bit more patience with McManus here. I don't know, but that would be a factor in it too. Is kicking in Green Bay, it's a different animal, obviously, than indoors when you have the controlled environment. So,
And
look at the numbers.
The year before, he went 3 for 4.
Yeah, you got the good numbers right there. So.
I think patience, like you said, is key because he was good the year before and then struggled this year. So.
And this is his lowest field goal percentage since 2022. And then, he had that quad injury. Was that really affecting him more than maybe we were being led on? Was it bugging him? Was it an issue? Maybe. I don't know. But I think he will be kicking next year. And, last year, 2024, he was solid. Yeah, you missed that one in the postseason, which the postseason ones are going to be highlighted, and rightfully so, because you can't do that in the postseason. But, I think he'll be back next year. And if he continues to struggle, and then we're back to square one with our kicking situation.
Yep.
So, all right. We'll take a quick break. Back with some more of your topics. Plenty more baseball talk coming up here, too. Give me your opinions, your reaction to the Freddie Peralta trade. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You get it, you hate it, all that fun stuff. We'll be right back after these quick words. All right, quick segment because we got to get to Jake here in a few minutes, but the NFL just releasing, NFL released it, but it's the Associated Press Award finalists. MVP, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, Christian McCaffrey, and Matthew Stafford. Coach of the Year, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Vrabel. No surprises there. Comeback Player of the Year, Stephon Diggs, Aiden Hutchinson, Trevor Lawrence, Christian McCaffrey, Dak Prescott. One Packer was listed as a nominee. Not going to win it, but still. Defensive Player of the Year. Micah Parsons is a top 5. Aiden Hutchinson, Nick Bonito, Will Anderson Jr., and my money's probably going to go to Myles Garrett for that. So, Offensive Player of the Year, a.k.a. also known as MVP runner-up. Drake May, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Bijan Robinson, Jackson Smith, Jigba. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Abdul Carter, James Pierce Jr., Schlesinger, the linebacker from Cleveland. Seems like it's going to be him. Xavier Watts. You got Offensive Rookie. Did I say defense? That was defense. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jackson Darts, Abuka, Henderson, McMillan, Tyler Shoot. That one is going to be interesting for me to see who's going to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Because I thought it was going to be Emeka, but then he trailed off. Then I thought maybe Tep McMillan, but now everybody's saying maybe might be Tyler Shoot from New England.
He played
New
well.
Orleans. So.
He played well at the end of the year.
I think if Jackson Dart didn't get concussions and get hurt, he might be the favorite.
Yeah.
But, So MVP, who would you vote for?
I would vote for Drake May. Just due to the fact he's in a different environment than Stafford. He's not playing in a dome, and the weapons he has are a lot less. Stafford's got Puka and Devontae Adams and Kyron Williams, and Drake May's thrown to Stephon Diggs. So that I would vote for. Honestly, actually, I would probably go Josh Allen, but between Drake May and Matthew Stafford, I would go with May.
I think I would go with Drake May, but I think Stafford's going to win it.
I do too.
Yeah.
So,
but all right, we've got John with a quick text that says, "I hate the trade, but as a Brewers fan, I saw it coming. I'm kind of used to it now. We get a great pitcher, and we can't afford them, so we got to go move on from them. My question next is, how long do we have that with The Miz before he gets traded? In my opinion, the Brewers just feel like a farm system to the big market teams. And I think that's where a lot of people last year were wondering, hey, should they lock up Jacob Mizorowski right now for a long-term deal? And obviously that's, on one side, yeah, you potentially would save a lot of money, like the Freddie Peralta one. They did do that with Aaron Ashby. Now maybe they're kind of regretting it. It's not a lot of money, but still. The other factor, from Mizorowski's side of things is his arrow was trending super high to where he's like, why would I do that? Because in a few years I could really cash in. But then there is a belief that, okay, is he going to have an injury for how hard he throws? And he's not the bulkiest guy out there. So, that's something that, it's a tough decision for either side to have to make at that point.
There's plenty of people the Brewers could consider extending. Bryce Terang. We just got 2 more prospects that, people are saying, I'm even seeing Jesus Mate, Jackson Sure will get a deal done for him. So there's plenty of people that we could extend. The Miz, he struggled at the end of last year, but like you said, his trajectory at the beginning of his career was the Brewers weren't going to pay that. So,
this might be a question that we can dive into a little bit more. But when it comes to extensions for the Brewers, do you think they should prioritize extending position players like they did with Jackson Churio, trying to get them by the cheap? Or should they focus more on the pitchers like they did with Freddie Peralta? On the flip side, it's like, how much do you trust Chris Hook, giving him all these pitchers? Does that factor? Because I think that's a factor. You have to, okay, well, I trust this guy to really get the most out of these guys, and that sort of. Think about that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Should they prioritize extending their position players or pitchers?
It's a good question.
All right, we got to take a quick break. You can also chime in on that. Text it to us while we're chatting with Jake. You'll be joining us here in just a couple minutes. We'll get back to some more of your comments, including the plethora of ones from C-Bomb on the YouTube stream. By the way, is Zach MIA missing in action over there on YouTube? So, also a couple more texts to catch up on. We'll get to those here in just a little bit. It's time for our Tailgate Outdoors, brought to you by Tilden Gun, where we're chatting with our good friend, Mr. Jake Boakes, Wisconsin Conservation Warden for the state of Wisconsin. All right, Jake, so I got to ask, man, how are you preparing for tomorrow for the cold and such, man? I mean, because is this like 500 layers and hand warmers and, rechargeable heating vests or do you have the day off? You're like, no, I'm taking a day off tomorrow. No, thank you.
I don't have the day off. So the squad is going to have a lot of extra layers. It's just hard because, I'm sure everyone's pretty familiar with what a cop or a game warden wears, and I wear an external carrier, so like all my gear's on the outside. So you have to plan accordingly with what base layers you wear, what you can actually wear over your gear so you can get to it if you need it. So there's definitely some configurations you got to figure out before you go walk in negative 20-degree air temp. But a lot of our job, too, is based off what the public's doing and what the fishermen are doing or snowmobilers or whatnot. So depending on what we see, depends on how much I actually have to go outside. So we'll see what everyone else wants to do tomorrow and through the weekend. But there's fishing tournaments and stuff that are still going on, so people will be out there.
Do you, or I should say just you, but does like DNR wardens, when it comes to tournaments, I know we talked a little bit about tournaments last week, do you guys patrol that too, or is it mostly just, you kind of stay away from that, or is that like, I guess, a hot zone, if that's the right way to say it?
No, it's a good question. We definitely don't like ignore them, and we don't ignore them, and we don't pick on them or anything like that. It's just we don't have any any reason to like worry about the tickets or this or that like for the actual tournament. So we're just there, just doing our normal job. It's just that on this date, on that location, there's just a heavier influx of people fishing the same area. So just like, say there's a fishing or the tournament on Altoona, I might go down there today and check 2 to 20 people and do the same thing I would do on a day where there's just 200 or 2,000 people, So same kind of stuff. It's just more people to talk to, more people to check and stuff like that. So.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, let's stay with the fishing side of things here, and something that you alluded to or gave me a heads up on earlier in the week. And it starts in April, but probably a good idea to kind of hit right now. And there's maybe some panfish regulations or panfish rules going to be changing here soon.
Yeah, no, I sent it over to you because it was, we were talking about regulations and such, which every week, I generally hit the old check your regulations before you go line. But it just kind of, when the email came across, it kind of made sense just to share it with you. Just something as simple as with the new fishing season, new license year come April, they're gonna update the panfish regulations for the Eau Claire River and Lake Eau Claire. So right now it's kind of like today it's different across the Eau Claire River system. So on Altoona there's a 10 panfish limit, but then once you get into the river up near Big Falls, it's 25, but then you go out to Lake Eau Claire and it's 15 with 5 different species and yada yada. So they're consolidating it all to be in the same regulation across the whole fishing across the whole Claire River, so that it's not an issue. And that regulation is just that it's all going to go to a 10 panfish bag limit, starting all the way from Lake Altoona all the way up through the Eau Claire or Lake Eau Claire Dam and the north and south forks of the river. So everywhere you can fish on the Eau Claire River from downtown Eau Claire through Clark County, it's going to be the same exact regulation, which is 10 panfish, which I think it makes it simpler for enforcement, but I think it makes it simpler for fishermen where it's just like, okay, it's 10 panfish. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Right. And again, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and again, it's just an example of an example and a reminder of why it's important to always check the regulations. Because if you go out on the fishing opener this spring and you don't hear this conversation or you don't check the regs, you might go up to Big Falls and try to catch 25 panfish or 25 perch when they're running, and then I come down and I'm like, yeah, you're 150% over the bag limit, which is a huge fine. So it's the importance of checking.
How, from your side of things, I mean, because you always almost feel like you have to be on your toes with a lot of these rule changes and such, and especially like fishing and something we always hit up when we talk about it in the summer, and that the different lakes, the different, lengths, what you could keep in this lake is different from that lake and such. I mean, how difficult is that for you at times? Or is that just something, I'm used to it by now and it's part of the job?
Well, it's part of the job for me, but, I look at my job very similar to what it's like being, being a sportsman or being a fisherman. Like I went fishing this last week and up in northern Wisconsin, and I don't patrol there. The only thing I know is that it's in the ceded territory. But even at that point, I don't know if they have like special walleye regulations on the lakes we were fishing. So, I look at the job just like I would look at it when I'm personally fishing, and that's, taking the 10 minutes, 5 minutes to pull up the regulations on your phone and to check if there's any special regs, if anything's changed, stuff like that. So, it's just part of the sport of fishing. And if a fisherman doesn't think that the regulations aren't or taking the time to do it, then in a sense you're kind of wrong, because part of fishing, just like making sure you got tungsten jigs or whatever for when you go out, making sure you got what you need, is part of it. You start with getting a license and checking the regs on what you can actually catch, what you can target, what you can take and keep home. So, I don't, as a warden, one of my biggest things that, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I'm never one to be like, do as I say and not as I do type of guy. So I definitely make sure and use discretion when I'm talking with guys. But again, it's a big reason I like doing this show with you, is because we can have these conversations and share this information before it even goes public, so that people can, make sure they're doing the right thing when they go out.
Right, exactly. Hey, stay with fishing. When you hit your limit, can you still group fish in Wisconsin? I know this might be a little bit more relevant for ice fishing and such, but what's the rule with that?
Yeah, in Wisconsin, everyone gets their own daily bag limit, and when you're out there, you have to maintain that. So there are some other states where you can kind of group fish. So if the daily bag limit is 10, your buddy could catch all 20 fish and you catch 0, and then you're legal. But not in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, if we go out to Altoona today, I get my 10 panfish, my buddy gets a 10 panfish, you get your 10 panfish, and I can't catch extra ones and give them to you. So it's important that you catch your own fish, maintain your own fish. It's easier to do ice fishing generally, because you catch it, you throw it down in your frozen pile and call it good. But it's really applicable when you're summer fishing, when you got 3-4 guys in a boat and you're throwing all the same panfish into a live well. There's nothing illegal about that. You don't need to tag your own fish or something like that. But what wardens expect is that when we pull up and we're like, all right, how many fish you got in there? Oh, you got 21 fish. Okay. There's 4 of you. All right, how many do you each have? And if everyone can real quickly be like, I got 5 of them, I got 7 of them, I got 3, and I got 4, then it's like, okay, they're counting their fish. I don't got any concerns. They're not, everyone's maintaining their own bag and stuff like that. So it's just more about the intent, and it's more about just showing a conservation warden as a fisherman that you're doing the due diligence to make sure that you're sticking within your bag limit and following the rules.
Jake, I had seen something on Facebook the other day too, going back to the cold weather and such, and it talked about even with it being cold, with animals out there and such, don't give them extra food or don't feed them or don't create a shelter and such. Is that basically just because that way they don't get kind of used to it and accustomed to it? So when that person stops it, that they're not kind of confused, or maybe that could actually do them more harm than actual help them right now?
Yeah, a few different things. I mean, black and white, it's illegal to feed animals and stuff like that. So you could start with that as the easiest answer. But But no, what you said is exactly it. So say you feed an animal, every day for 2 months, December and January, and then you decide to go to Florida for a couple weeks during February. That animal is habituated to whatever food source, whatever water source, whatever shelter, that now you just basically pull the rug from out under that animal. So you set it up for failure, just like, your own pet or something like that. As well as, like, in times like this, first of all, they're animals. They've been here longer than us, and they're acclimated, and this is what they do. They survive. That's their job, is they just eat and survive and reproduce. That's what animals do. So they're better at this than we are. But if you set them up for failure, if you are feeding them, you pull it away, it doesn't help them, as well as the food. So what you're giving them might not be what they need. If you feed a deer corn all winter, there's actually instances where it's been documented, and it's not uncommon for deer to actually die because the corn is acidic, and it's actually disrupting their digestive system, and it's not helping them. They need to eat a balanced diet, just like humans, just like your dog. So when you're just feeding them corn, it actually can hurt them and kill them. So if you don't feed them, again, it gives them the opportunity to be a wild, natural animal and forage and get the food that they need to survive this cold temperatures.
Gotcha. Hey, Jake, we got one more question that came through here. When it comes to trails, obviously we've talked about snowmobiling and such, but do you need a pass or a permit if you go cross-country skiing?
It depends on where you're doing it. So if you're doing it on state lands, there might be some properties where you have to pull some sort of permit, or maybe it's as simple as you just have to have like a parking pass. Like if you go into Lake Wissota State Park, within the boundaries of the park, you have to have like a daily admission pass or an annual one. But for a lot of areas, it seems like a lot of those types of trails are on county land. And as a state worker, state employee, I'm not too familiar with those because we don't have any authority or jurisdiction over county lands or what processes or permits or trails they put on there. So anytime you go to a county land, a federal land, something like that, you want to just pull up their website or give them a call or stop at their office and ask them any of the regulations or parameters or licenses or permits that you might need.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure like the state of Wisconsin doesn't have any sort of like special trail for that, or special license or permit or anything for that. It would be more or less like if you just need an admission sticker to be on that property or to park on that property and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, he's Jake Boakes, Conservation Warden for the great state of Wisconsin. Dude, stay warm tomorrow. Stay warm for these next few days
you
here.
too.
All right, be safe.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah. Everyone stay warm. It'll be a cold one.
Mm-hmm, no kidding. So, all right, be safe, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Okay, bud?
Yep, see you later, man.
Yep, you got it. There you go. Jake Boakes, Conservation Warden for the state of Wisconsin, joining us here this morning. We'll take our final break as we start to wrap up the third hour. We'll be right back coming up after these quick words. got about 10 minutes left to the top of the hour. Coming up at about 9:35, Hunter Baumgart from Fox Sports 920 Brewers Reporter will be joining us to chat about the Freddie Peralta trade that went down last night. If you want to give your opinion and your thoughts on it, feel free. Let us know. All right. Hit us up with a quick message. John on our on the text line says, do you think Giannis is talking his way into a trade at the deadline? I know he said he's not going to ask for a trade, but do you think he's pushing the Bucks to trade him by calling out his teammates? I don't think he's pushing the Bucks to trade him by calling out his teammates. I think he's just legitimately frustrated with how everything's going and honestly fully believes that his teammates probably could be better. I don't think there's an ulterior motive for him by doing that to say, hey, this is my way, I'm going to ask for a trade sort of thing. I don't think that's the case. I think he's just straight up frustrated, upset, pissed, with the way things are going with this Bucks team.
He questioned their shot selection, and when Giannis only has 11 shots, there should be some questions.
Yeah.
So, Kuzma took 12.
The guy who
more
took
than
the
Giannis.
most. Yeah, the guy who took the most came off the bench, Bobby Portis.
Yeah. So Giannis should be taking almost 20 shots a game. And so there needs to be some questioning, and I don't know if Doc Rivers is doing that, but Giannis is trying to be a leader, and I appreciate that.
And I do think there's this might not be there, but I wonder, going back to what Giannis, said, was it last week or the week before, kind of calling him out. I don't know if there's now some apprehension from his teammates, some nervousness from his teammates, like, okay, Giannis is upset, and this is Giannis, this is the main guy, Now they're playing a little apprehensive, like, hey, I don't want to screw up sort of thing. And that sometimes can do more damage than good. It was a really weird lineup last night because you didn't have Miles Turner in the game. It was a really small starting lineup. Gary Harris got the starts. Essentially Kyle Kuzma was your big with Giannis down low. So it was definitely a different one. And I know Doc said after the game, too, kind of looking at their upcoming schedule of games, he said, too, we got to win these games. We got to win these games. These are winnable games coming up here. And he's exactly right. You're continuing to dig yourself into a deeper hole that is going to be insanely hard to get out of. 18 and 25. That's, you don't win these stretch of games coming up here. It's not great. So,
well, and for last night, the Thunder are a top 5 team in rim protection in the paint, and the Bucks pride themselves on 3-point shooting. But Kuzma 0 for 5 from 3, Green went 4 for 9, Portis 2 for 7. So they're not hitting their threes, and against a top 5 team in the paint, you're gonna have to hit your outside shots. So.
Yeah, I just this was the quote. These next games are huge for us. All winnable games, all at home. We get some rest. I think we'll find out what we have in these next 4 or 5 games. It's big for us. All right, if we use that next 4 or 5 games, let's say they fail. Let's say they win 1 game or 2 games in that stretch. We were talking about it when we were talking some football. Who's going to get the blame in that? Should it be Doc Rivers? Is it going to be Doc Rivers? When's enough? And all right, today's enough is enough. I think it's, for me, again, I'm not one to sit there and pound the table and call for somebody to lose their job, but I got to say, I think enough is enough with the Doc Rivers experience as head coach for the Milwaukee Bucks.
I never liked it when they hired him, but now especially for the ownership, though, it's like, how many coaches do you want to be paying at a time? So they've messed up on so many that you got to get it right. And I would absolutely, I think he should be gone, but I would not, let's say they moved on from Doc Rivers, I would not necessarily hire a coach midseason like they did with Rivers. I would keep the interim.
Probably Darvin Ham at that point.
Yep. And ride the season out. And then Giannis obviously should get a little say in it. We saw what happened last time he practically hired a guy.
Yeah.
But he should get a little say in it. But you wait till the offseason when you have more options.
Yeah. For anybody who didn't hear the exact quotes from Giannis last night, we're not playing hard, which is something, again, he said last week. We're not doing the right thing, which is what he's said multiple times. We're not playing to win. We're not playing together. Our chemistry's not there. Guys are being selfish, trying to look for their own shots instead of looking for the right shot for the team. Guys are trying to do their own. This is something he has constantly said throughout the year. Why is it still a thing? Why is it still, if this is, it's one thing to say it once in a while or, one time, but this is a constant theme. Why is it not being heard? Like he was asked, why is your messaging not being heard? And he said, I don't know. This was last week and that. Is it from the coach? I mean, do these players not respect him? I don't know what that HE double hockey sticks is going on inside that locker room. And if it is chemistry, honestly, I feel like this is almost maybe more of a shot to the front office than anything, that you didn't do a good enough job putting together a roster or hey, the roster you did put together, it ain't good enough. It's not working, obviously, when you look at the wins and losses. Maybe he's not necessarily forcing a trade with these comments, but maybe he's putting more pressure. You better make a trade to bring in other guys by the trade deadline.
Yeah. I think, though, the ownership's like, what else do we do? Like, we traded for Dame, and that didn't work. And then we cut Dame, and now we signed Turner, and that's not working. So for them, it's like we've done a lot to try and help, and none of it's working. So at some point, it's you just got to clear house. And you can clear house and keep Giannis. That is possible. But guys like Kyle Kuzma need to go. Miles Turner, if he's not a fit, needs to go. I'm sure you could get something for Kevin Porter Jr. So there's players you could trade away and get stuff back to retool around Giannis.
And then Kyle Porter Jr. is going to be out for a while, it sounds like, too, with that oblique injury, according to Doc Rivers. So, I mean, you lose your second leading scorer. You lose your guy who's top in assists and such. I mean, it is a cluster you-know-what right now with the Bucks. So, and again, when the season's over with, you got to take a hard look at this thing. And if it's coach and general manager, I mean, who we want to point the finger and we want to point the blame to a lot. Is it ownership for allowing this to get this far? Is it the front office and general manager John Horst? Is it the coach? All the above. Probably is a little bit of both here, but whatever recipe they came up with that they thought was going to be a successful one is not a very good recipe this year.
Yeah, and even at the end of this article on ESPN, he's like, I haven't demanded the ball my whole career because I've gotten it. And maybe it's time I have to start demanding the ball.
If I'm a teammate, like what am I thinking? What's going through my mind if I'm Ryan Rollins or if I'm, AJ Green or whoever? Like, our top player is saying this about me. Like, I feel like in a lot of cases for a lot of other athletes, a lot of people would be calling out Giannis for saying stuff like this.
Yeah.
If this was LeBron James, if this was Steph Curry, who's probably the most irritating NBA player right now in the league besides LeBron for some people. But if it was like another superstar, I think he'd be getting called to the carpet from a lot of national. Like, you can't say this stuff. You can't be doing this. He's completely thrown his teammates under the bus. Is Giannis getting a pass from this? Or is it because dude's right?
Honestly.
He's right because there's like nobody else on that squad.
I mean, they beat the Hawks by 2, and I was listening to the end of the game, and it was like Kyle Kuzma 3-pointer, AJ Green 3-pointer, and it's like Giannis isn't even getting a touch. And so that, like, people aren't doubling him before he gets the ball, so you have to get him a touch on almost every possession, and I think he's starting to get irritated. We're like, I took 11 shots. Yeah. It's not going to get the job done. He went 8 of 11, and we lost by 20.
Yeah.
So, yeah, something's got to change.
All right, there's the shot clock. We're 3 hours in. One more to go. News updates. We'll be back, and we got more Brewers talk coming up. Final hour on this Thursday morning coming at you right now. Thanks for hanging out with us here this morning. Coming up at the bottom of the hour in about 30 minutes, we'll catch up with our friend Hunter Baumgart, Brewers reporter, Fox Sports at 9:20. So we'll get his take, his thoughts on the Freddie Peralta trade from last night. If you're just joining us, you're like, what? What happened? Where have you been? Freddie Peralta last night, along with Tobias Myers, traded to the New York Mets for a couple of top prospects. We got Jet Williams is the top one there, infielder. Does have a little bit of outfield experience as well. And then Sproat, the pitcher here. So both guys will be, I would say, a chance when we get to spring training to crack the opening day roster. I do wonder if Jet's going to open up in AAA and such. And I know Matt Arnold said after the trade last night that Sproat will get a chance to compete for the rotation and there. Just has 4 major league games under his belt for experience and such. So, but kind of give us your analysis, your thoughts on the trade. I'll be honest. I thought I was a little surprised by a lot of the comments from Brewers fans. Like, yeah, they actually got a lot in return, or a good return. Looking at a lot of Mets fans and Mets people talking about it, they did say that the Mets gave up a lot for Freddie Peralta and Tobias Myers. So, we'll see if it kind of plays out here. But, and I don't know how Freddie's going to do with the Mets. We saw Devin Williams when he got traded to the Yankees, bigger market, sort of thing. We'll see. And I'm not wishing that on Freddie by any means, unless he's pitching against the Brewers and that. But, we'll kind of see where. But it's another former Brewer with the Mets. You got Devin Williams over there, too. So, I mean, David Stearns is, collecting some of those guys. I know Tyrone Taylor's an outfielder still on the roster for the Mets, too. So, but I almost feel like if this was the Kyle Tucker thing with the Mets maybe missing out on him because there was a thought that he could go there. Yes, they got Bo Bichette, but now I'm wondering with like what the Dodgers are doing too, where the Mets like, okay, we're gonna up the ante here a little bit. We're gonna be a little bit more aggressive and willing to trade a couple top prospects to get guys that can help us right now, maybe to combat the Dodgers.
Yeah, they traded for Luis Robert Jr. also from the White Sox yesterday morning. So kind of, eventually somebody's got to meet the Dodgers, and the Mets, probably other than the Dodgers, have some of the most money in the NL. So they're the team to be able to, and Freddie Peralta's not owed a lot of money. But,
no,
I mean, he's a good player, and they had the prospects to land him, so why not?
So, but from a lot of you, I think the prevailing thought for a lot of people out there, too, is like, not surprised. Not surprised. You could be a little down and such. I guess the question is, too, or another question to throw in there is, at what point, and maybe we'll never get there, but at what point does a team like the Brewers stop kind of always planning for the future or making sure they're good for the future and maybe not focusing on the now? That's one thing I've been seeing people saying, what about 2026? You're talking about the future with these guys, but what about 2026 when you're coming off of 97 wins, first place in the division, top spot in the playoffs? I think one of our listeners brought it up. It's the state of baseball with these smaller market teams, smaller payrolls. This is how they operate. And I feel like the Brewers are a team that, they're going to try to do the best, put their team in a position to get to the postseason, and then you cross your fingers.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just the state of the Brewers, right? I mean, the bite at the apple talk is just going to continue now because I don't think we'll ever go all in. I don't think we'll ever see that from the Brewers just because their owner doesn't like to pay the money. And we were a 97-win team last year and the youngest in the MLB. And so that tells you something about we have the young talent, and our pitching staff will take a step back this year likely with the loss of Peralta, but they just retool. Like they weren't supposed to win 97 games last year. So
yeah, and that's a few people have mentioned too. They exceed expectations and such from last year. So are we overanalyzing that? Are we say we're putting too much into last year? And it's like they were actually maybe not as good as their record indicated, but I'm like, I don't, you are what you are that year, right? I mean, I don't like that as an excuse that's being, well, they were better, they were playing with fools. So what? Maybe, okay, they were better than what you thought. Maybe that's why you should invest a little bit more into it too. That's the counter argument to everything.
They did what the Packers couldn't. They beat a division rival in the playoffs. So,
yeah.
I mean, losing to the Dodgers is not something to be ashamed about. So, I mean, everybody loses to the Dodgers nowadays. So I think last year was a really successful year. It was fun seeing them winning in the playoffs again.
And I think that's, where a lot of fans, too, want to build upon that. Like, why, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Why aren't they building upon that? Why aren't they trying to run it back? Why aren't they maybe kind of pushing more chips into the middle of the table? A little a la, you were pretty young, but like 2011, when the Brewers, they knew it was going to be the final year of Prince Fielder. And Ryan Braun was there, just kind of, up and coming. Ryan Braun ended up winning MVP that year and was doing some other stuff off to the side with that too. But, that offseason they had acquired Zach Greinke, Sean Markham. And you had the thought, like, they're going all in for this year because they know Prince Fielder's not going to be back next year. They can't afford him. And they got a couple games away from going to the World Series. And then, it took a little bit after, to kind of, get back to that a little bit too. So this is a team that wants to put together a roster. They've admitted it. They've said it, that they're going to be competitive for years, not going to invest in just 1 year. But I also think that does come with the mindset of like, okay, that's fine. I'm not against it. But you're also hoping that you get a little luck in the postseason too.
Yeah. As the owner, though, he's probably looking at it like, we had the best record in baseball. Like, what else do I have to do, right? And we, as fans, look at it like, well, we want to win in the postseason. Mm-hmm. But they did. They won 97 games. They swept the Dodgers. I mean, in the regular season, they did all they needed to do, and I think some of the inexperience led to them getting swept out by the Dodgers in the playoffs. But I don't know if that's one player who we need or multiple players. Mm-hmm. And so the all-in, like, I don't know. I don't know what going all-in would look like from a Brewers standpoint. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know, Todd. I don't know if anybody said Brewers is pitching going to take a step back. I don't think we said that. But I mean, you're going to be losing Freddie Peralta. I mean, that's a loss. Okay, let's factor that in. That's a loss. You do have Brandon Woodruff coming back. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. You hope Mizorowski can kind of pick up where he left off in the postseason. He started off the season really hot, then struggled so much so that he wasn't in the Rookie of the Year conversation anymore. Coming out of the bullpen. You hope maybe now kind of resets, because I don't envy that guy, what he had to go through, making his debut, then going to an all-star game. It was just like nonstop. Like, I felt like that guy just probably needed a break to catch up on stuff. There's a lot of potential. But I think what Freddie at least gave you was you knew what you were going to get from Freddie Peralta. You're probably going to get 15 wins, got 17 last year, around there. You also know you're not going to go deep into games. You're only going to get 5 innings, 5-inning Freddie. You knew he was probably going to be healthy. I mean, last couple of years, he gave you over 200 innings. So, I mean, you knew what you were kind of getting with Freddie. It's an unknown yet still with these guys, with the younger pitching staff, as we talked a lot about in the first hour, was, you're going to get – it's a unique pitching staff because there's a lot of guys with starting experience. A lot of younger guys, but a lot of guys that have pitched a lot of innings, and whether they're coming out of the pen, whether they're going to be part of the rotation, that's going to be something kind of interesting to follow when we get to spring training. But I feel like, again, this is a team that's going to continue to be, this is the mindset, and I think this is just the state of baseball. They're going to put together a solid team that's going to compete for a playoff spot. Are they going to be viewed as one of the better teams when seasons begin? No, they won't be. They'll probably surprise people again this year. But when it gets to the postseason, are they going to have enough talent? And that's where they're probably going to, again, might need a little bit of that luck.
Yeah. Well, and again, who is going to have the talent that's matchups to the Dodgers?
That's the thing.
Nobody.
And I think, too, the other part is, we knew the Brewers weren't going to try to compete in terms of player acquisition like the Dodgers are, right? I mean, Mets can. They can go and do that. You know, Brewers, no, they're not doing that. So that's where, again, you're probably like, maybe luck can be on our side and stay healthy and all that. And, you know, kind of what we alluded to earlier, too. They got a lot of prospects at that shortstop infield position now. Maybe that's something that's used as trade bait when it gets to the trade deadline, where they're in a position to make a special run. All right, now we got some depth at a premier spots. We can go get this guy at the trade deadline without taking a huge hit to our farm system.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the running, absolutely, I'd swap one of those prospects. But that also, I mean, you also could swap somebody on your roster that's proven in the MLB because you have those prospects now. So it gives you a lot of flexibility on what you want to do.
And I think the other part, too, with that shortstop, it does put more pressure on. You have maybe another option if Joey Ortiz isn't working out. You know what you're going to get from Joey Ortiz defensively, but if he can't take that step offensively, you're probably a little bit more prepared with a Jet Williams who's ready to maybe come up in the major leagues. If Cooper Pratt's not quite ready, Jesus Mate is probably not going to make that jump right away. But you're probably a little bit more prepared in case, you know, Joey Ortiz gets off to a slow start, again, offensively. It's like, all right, we tried it. We're going to go to the young guy now. So that's – you put yourself in that spot, too.
And Joey Ortiz would be a fantastic bench player.
He's like the Blake Perkins of the infield.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Like, I'd love him on our bench. The problem is you have to have your shortstop's supposed to be able to hit.
Yeah.
So.
Or at least, you know, when it was to the point last year where he's up to the plate and, you know, there's 2 outs and you're like, okay, there's 3 outs.
Yeah, you can turn off the channel because it's like, well, now, yeah.
You want at least something. And it wasn't really getting you a whole lot. So, but. All right, we'll take a quick break. We got plenty more Brewers talk coming up with Hunter coming up at the bottom of the hour. But also, quick updates on some interviews for the Packers defensive coordinator position. We'll tell you who else is interviewing with the Packers today. Coming up after these quick words. So as we've discussed, the Packers reportedly last night interviewed former player Al Harris for their defensive coordinator job. Al Harris currently with the Chicago Bears as defensive backs coach and pass game coordinator. Dan Graziano, just a little bit ago, said Vikings defensive pass game coordinator Durante Jones is scheduled to interview today with both the Packers and the Giants for their open defensive coordinator jobs. Earlier this morning, Adam Schefter had tweeted that Jonathan Gannon was interviewing today and tomorrow for the Packers defensive coordinator job as well. So these are the names so far that have been, it sounds like, are scheduled to interview or will interview: Christian Parker, Jonathan Gannon, Durante Jones, and Al Harris. Probably not the only list. Probably going to be more. Just, be patient. I know everybody wants Jimmy Leonard on there. He can't yet this week, but I would imagine if, let's say, Denver loses, maybe we'll get an interview right away next week. But, again, it's following a theme here when it comes to the coordinators that LaFleur is looking at. Guys that are defensive backs coaches or experienced coaching the secondary and defensive backs. Jeff Hafley was the same. His area of expertise, if you will, was defensive backs, was a secondary coach. So I don't know if that's part of the thinking here too, or if it's like our intern Carter said a little bit earlier. You look at the defensive position group, you can make an argument that it's the corners, probably the weakest group on the defensive side. So maybe that's another way to kind of improve that area as well. So, but I think, and it's something that's been talked about off and on. I'm really curious, does Matt LaFleur opt to go with an experienced guy, a guy who has called plays before? Does he go with a first-timer? Because right now, of the list that we're looking at, Al Harris hasn't called plays. Christian Parker hasn't called plays. Durante Jones. I mean, they're defensive backs coaches and pass game coordinators on the defensive side. Jonathan Gannon has called defensive plays before, being a defensive coordinator with the Philadelphia Eagles when they went to the Super Bowl and such, and obviously being a head coach with the Cardinals. So does he go with experience? Does he go with the first-timer? When you factor in this is a team that's in a must-win-now situation, does he try to go with the, I guess, quote, safer routes where, okay, I've seen this guy call plays before, kind of know what to expect? Or does he maybe take a little bit of a risk and go with the route of, hey, I haven't seen this guy call plays before. Stock's up, but it's still a little bit of a risk too.
Yeah, just hope he does his due diligence and doesn't just quickly hire. So, but it'll be interesting to see who he brings in. I would be interested if Jonathan Gannon would call plays like Hafley, where he's in a box or if he's on the field.
And I think Gannon, if we go to Philadelphia when he was a D coordinator, he was out on the field. I believe he was. So, which, I don't know if that would. Guys have changed. I know they've changed off and on, but I don't know if that would be. Yeah, and the other thing is too, the other guys haven't called plays before, so I don't. And I think there's something we talked a little bit about earlier. If it is a first timer, surround him with some veteran coaches, right? Surround him with some veteran defensive coaches, guys that have maybe called plays before, like they currently have on their roster, or just longtime position coaches. You bring in a first-time defensive coordinator, surround him with some experience on that coaching staff, so he's got sounding boards, so he can, maybe have some trust. I think the biggest issue, and I think this is honestly where Matt LaFleur has run into problems with, is delegating. And I get it. If you're a hot, young offensive or defensive coordinator coming in and you're going to be a first-time play caller, it might be hard for some people to say, hey, can I trust you to take care of this? Can I trust? They may want to take it all on themselves. And because this is my shot, this is my first opportunity, I don't want to screw it up. So I'm going to do it all on my own because I'm the only person that I trust. It's hard. We're all human, right? It is that way. It doesn't matter if you're young, you're an adult or whatever. I just hope, if it is a first-timer, surround him with those veterans. Surround him with those veterans that have been around the block for a little bit, those veteran coaches that can help him out and hopefully make that first-time defense coordinator a little bit more comfortable to perhaps delegate if they have to.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to need like you said, some oldness, right? Because I believe we had the youngest staff
Position
in
coaches, yeah.
the postseason. So if you're bringing in Al Harris, if you're bringing in Christian Parker, you're going to need some people to help them bounce things off of.
And I think that's, if you look at it from a head coaching standpoint, you see a lot of those first-time head coaches do that. I mean, Matt LaFleur did it. I mean, he kept Mike Pettin. It sounds like he was kind of vast, keep Mike Pettin, which at that time I think we were all good with because, okay, experienced defensive coordinator, former head coach, you got that. He brought in Nathaniel Hackett as his offensive coordinator, was a long-time offensive coordinator across the league. He surrounded himself with a couple of veterans that way until you get your feet a little wet and you get a little bit more comfortable and such. But this is where, and I think, he kind of did the same too with Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley, yeah, he was a former head coach at the college level, but he had Derek Ansley Jr. on his staff, called plays for the Chargers, was longtime coordinator. DeMarcus Covington, a little bit younger, but was added as a former defensive coordinator last year too. First year with Jeff Hafley, had Anthony Campanelli on his staff, a long-time linebackers coach, now is getting head coaching interviews because he's a D coordinator with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think there is something to it. If you bring in one of those guys, bring some experience with them too to help them out. Especially not only just because they are that first-time coordinator and calling plays, but man, we want to win a Super Bowl in the next couple of years because we have the talent to do so, and you want to get the most out of a guy like, Micah Parsons.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of pressure on whoever comes in because you better perform.
Yep.
When you have a guy like Micah Parsons and, like you said, a team that's competing for a Super Bowl, you better perform because you're going to get one opportunity, and this is a coveted job, I would assume.
I would assume too because you're going to be calling plays.
Yeah.
You get Micah Parsons.
Yeah. That says it all.
Yeah, I mean, you get to work with him. You're on a championship caliber team with that mindset, with that goal. It's not like, hey, first year or two is going to be a little rough. We got to reset the cap and all that. No, you got to hit the ground running right away. I mean, and then the guy you replace, it's not like you're replacing a guy who was fired.
Yeah.
You're replacing a guy who got a head coaching job. So, yeah, there is a lot of pressure, but I also think it's a great opportunity too. And it should be well wanted, or very attractive for a lot of people.
Absolutely, yeah.
Out there. But, yeah, I really, honestly, I don't have a good gauge of where he's going to go, where LaFleur's going to go with this thing. He caught a lot of people by surprise a few years ago when it was Jeff Hafley.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me again if it's another name that nobody's talking about.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a candidate that he's already talked to or plans on talking to. I don't know. I'm not even going to try to figure out what type of college coach it could be, like a Jeff, like who's a head coach at a Boston College level that would jump to the NFL to be a coordinator. I'm not even going to try it because there's so many of those types of colleges.
That Jeff Hafley's hiring, that was like out of the blue. Like nobody thought Jeff Hafley was going to be the guy. So
yeah,
he'll do that now and again.
But I don't even want to try to figure out who that potentially could be. So. All right, coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to be talking with Hunter Baumgart. He is the Brewers reporter for Fox Sports 920. We'll talk some, obviously, Freddie Peralta stuff with him, get his take on the trade and that. So, final call for any of your thoughts. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, your analysis on that trade from the Brewers last night to the Mets. Also, question that Carter threw out there a little bit earlier for our Takeover Thursday. Do you want the Packers to move on from, I'm going to keep saying this because I think people forget too, Marshfield native Adam Stenavich. I'm not saying that's why they should keep him, but I'm just saying, it's not the same comparisons. But, I do think Jimmy Leonard gets a lot of love because he is from Wisconsin, from the area. Remember, Packers offense coordinator is also from Marshfield, but I feel like there's a lot of people that don't want him there. So, do you want the Packers to move on from Adam Stenavich? Yay, nay. Do you think they need a different voice? Knowing whoever the offensive coordinator is, let's assume LaFleur's not giving that play calling out. So if we take that off the table, we can't say, yeah, bring Mike McDaniel in to call plays. That's off the table. LaFleur's going to call plays. We're operating under that. Do you think they need to make a change over there? Yay, nay, what do you got? All right, we'll take a quick break, and we're going to talk some more Brewers coming up in just a few minutes. Get on the bus with Wisco trips to Brewers opening day coming at you already in March. Doesn't feel like it's that far away, but Brewers opening day, March 26th, taking on the White Sox. Just head to wiscotrips.com or sportstalk1051.com to reserve your seats on the bus. You get the Johnsonville Party Deck ticket that includes food and beverages, tailgate party from Premier Catering, and round-trip motor coach transportation. So tickets are going fast. If you want to get your seat on the bus for opening day, just a couple months from now, again, head to wiscotrips.com. Make sure you select the Eau Claire icon or go to sportstalk1051.com, and it's right there on the home page. Speaking of Brewers, let's continue to talk more about the big news from last night. The Brewers trading Freddie Peralta to the New York Mets, along with Tobias Myers and such. And to help us break it all down is our good friend, Hunter Baumgart, Brewers reporter for Fox Sports 920, Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin. Hunter, thanks for joining us on short notice this morning, sir.
Absolutely. Always happy to join you, Dan. And when these types of things happen, it's a lot of information to try to take in and understand about the players coming back and why the Brewers would make this type of move, but always enjoy talking about it.
Well, we appreciate it. So first things first, I mean, did you get the sense that, okay, something was going to happen? Because it felt like in the last couple of days or maybe a week or so, the rumors and the rumblings kept getting louder, it felt like. Did you kind of assume that, okay, this is probably going to happen before spring training?
It did. We went through the first, month of the off season or so, right? Or a couple months, November, December, and I'm like, I think if there's going to be a player other than Willy Adames that they keep through their last year of their deal that's set up for a big-time deal afterwards, Freddie Peralta might be one of those guys they keep. And so through the first couple months of the offseason, I was like, all right, it's kind of looking that way. And then, things started to pick up. There's kind of been, it feels like, there over the winter meetings, there were moves made, and then there's kind of been this second wind of moves made. Mets making a fair amount of them. Obviously, Bo Bichette recently signed, and Cody Bellinger with the Yankees yesterday, Alex Bregman with the Cubs a couple of weeks ago or 10 days ago. So there's been this second wave, and then the rumors really started to pick up. Like you mentioned, the Dodgers were a team that the rumors were circling around, because they haven't added enough this offseason. But so that was already swirling, and then over the last couple of days, the Mets rumors started to really pick up, and then when there was a report yesterday morning about how it looked like the Brewers had submitted an offer for these two players, Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat, it looked like, okay, there's some smoke to this fire, and then last night it came down. So it's a thing that I was hoping they'd keep him just because it makes your 2026 team better. But the Brewers have been so incredibly good at doing exactly what they did last night, trading a player away of a high caliber with 1 year left on his deal and getting young players back who are going to contribute and are the type of guys the Brewers want in their organization, and we'll see if it works again.
Hunter, I'll ask you this because we've had a couple listeners bring this up. Is this almost an example of the current state of baseball, where you've got a smaller market team that, hey, we know we're not going to be able to afford this guy next year, so we got to trade him. We got to move on from him just to get something in return. I mean, would you agree with that assessment?
100%. I mean, it's just, you look at, other sports, whether it be football, basketball, other sports where, yes, there are instances where, okay, there's a guy 1 year left on his deal and you get something for him. I think basketball is maybe, the second most sport that happens in. But I just think that this is how baseball is set up, and the Dodgers signing Kyle Tucker recently is just another example of the disparity. And people can, yell and be mad at Marquette Nacio, which I don't understand because look at the business side of baseball. For Marquette Nacio and the owners, right, they're trying to make a profit. They own a business. At the end of the day, it's a business. And they also want to win, I'm sure, and as Marquette Nacio has said, and a lot of these owners say. But at the end of the day, they also have to make money, and the Brewers overall have to make money and sustain themselves and all of that. And you add in this TV deal that is now in question, and we're hopefully going to find out a little more of that by the end of the month. We'll see of FanDuel being in question, whether they're going to go under and what the Brewers would then do. And that's another chunk of money that the Brewers would not be able to make. When the Dodgers TV deal is like $300 million, it's just so different in Milwaukee. So with all of that combined, it really is when you look at what the Dodgers did in the last week, signing Kyle Tucker, and what the Brewers had to do last night, that is exactly what the state of baseball is. But the thing about it is the Brewers have been really, really good at going against the grain and being able to stand up to those teams and be better than the Mets last year. I mean, they were better than everybody over the regular season, and of course they fell to the Dodgers in the NLCS, and that's where you saw maybe a little bit of that gap there. But I just think this really is it's a referendum on the state of baseball, and I think we're going to obviously have some answers coming up next offseason in those CBA negotiations, and if this changes at least a little bit.
What can you tell us from what you know about the two prospects that are coming back, Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat? Now, I was kind of looking at what are some Mets fans' reactions, and I saw a lot of them saying, wow, the Mets gave up a lot for Freddie Peralta. So if you're a Brewers fan, that's got to at least, I would say, kind of make you feel a little bit better from what you got in return.
For sure. I think this was really a well-done job by Matt Arnold in going out and getting the players he wanted. I mean, these are two players, he said last night, that these are two players they've been looking at and wanting to acquire, and why not? Two of the top 5 prospects in the Mets organization, two of the top 100 prospects in baseball. And Jet Williams, you start with him, shortstop mainly, but he can play second, he can play the outfield, he can do a lot, positional versatility, which the Brewers absolutely love. And the guy fits the stature. You can compare him a little bit to Caleb Durbin, right? He's 5'7", 175, got a lot of speed, and 14th overall pick in 2022. Matt Arnold saying last night, quote, "It's Murph's style of player." Like that, and that fits exactly right with him. A lot of speed, 388 on base through his minor league career so far. Has yet to make his major league debut. Was in Double-A for about 95 games last year. Played 96 games in Double-A, then 34 games in Triple-A. Numbers weren't as good in Triple-A, but obviously that takes some getting used to, and it was towards the end of the season. But what do the Brewers love? They love speed. They love guys that can get on base. They like guys who make good swing decisions. That's another strength of Jet Williams' game. So Williams has a little more raw power than Caleb Durbin. Durbin is a little more bat to ball, so maybe you could even see some more pop from Jet Williams than a guy like Caleb Durbin, but they're very similar in that way, and I'm excited to see where he goes. Now, Brandon Sproat was a second-round pick in 2023 of the Mets, 25 years old, right-handed pitcher. Last year, he was in the majors for just 4 starts, so 4.79 ERA, but it's hard to really make anything out of that in just 4 starts. He was the only Mets starter last year to hit 99 on the radar gun. So you think about that, you pair him with a Jacob Mizorowski, the game of baseball as a whole right now is really going towards heat, right? When you think of some of the best pitchers in baseball, it's a lot of how hard they can throw in 100 and 100 plus. He hit 100 in AAA as well. So 6 different pitch types for him, and has a history of good ground ball rates. And that is exactly what the Brewers want with a good defensive infield. Maybe Jet Williams is one of them eventually, but obviously Bryce Terang, the Gold Glover, Platinum Glover, and Joey Ortiz. We all know about his defense and what Durbin did last year. So you've got good infield guys around you. Kind of, obviously Quinn Priester is known for his ground ball rates. So, again, another guy that fits the Brewers mold, and it really has worked in the last, since 2018 of bringing these guys in, and especially the last few years of bringing these types of players into the organization, and it obviously led you to 97 wins and an NLCS appearance last year.
We're chatting with Brewers reporter for Fox Sports 920 in Milwaukee, Hunter Baumgart. You mentioned the infield depth. Well, I mean, you look at the top 30 prospect list, Hunter, and the top 4 are all middle infielders, shortstops, second baseman and such, with Jesus Mate, Luis Pena, Jet Williams, and Cooper Pratt. And I'm sure there's probably going to be some people say, well, they all can't play. So, I mean, did the Brewers kind of set, and then you throw in Joey Ortiz, who right now is the current starter, did the Brewers set themselves up to a potential, hey, if we got to make a move to maybe acquire a bat or another player at the trade deadline, now they got a little bit of a position at depth where they can make that move and still feel comfortable about that depth?
Totally. They absolutely. Now, would I bet on them making that type of deal is another question, because they just love to keep these guys, and for good reason. Those 4 guys you just listed off are incredibly talented, and I think will all play a part in the major league level, whether it is for the Brewers or if they do make some type of deal down the road. I think Jesus Made is probably still a full season away. We'll see what Cooper Pratt does this year. Probably going to be most of it in AAA, maybe a late season come up. And then Pena, I think, is similar when it comes to Jesus Made, maybe a little bit behind. We'll see. But I think then you talk about Jet Williams. I think Matt Arnold saying last night that he'll compete for an opening day roster spot. I would think he's more of a Caleb Durbin type into last year, meaning Durbin started the year in AAA, but on April 18th made his MLB debut. I have a feeling Jet Williams may do something similar. I don't know if it's going to be April, but I have a feeling that I would be surprised if he's not at some point a part of the Major League club in 2026, which would be his MLB debut. And maybe an injury or an IL stint by someone is a reason for that, because I do think they're going to try Joey Ortiz one more time at shortstop. Matt Arnold has talked about that over the winter here. I do think they'll start there. And then I don't think there's going to be an incredibly long leash there. I think they let him go throughout those season last year. Now, they do prioritize, obviously, defense. So that is going to weigh on them, right? If you have to take Joey Ortiz out because his bat isn't doing well, you do give up on the defensive side. But if you think Jet Williams is a very good guy, I mean, he has a really good arm. And if you think he can do admirably or maybe not to the type of defense Joey Ortiz has, but close, maybe you do that. Do you try Terang over there at some point? I think there's going to be some mixing and matching, and maybe the opening day infield is not necessarily the infield come September, but I love having depth there. You also have some depth, especially at the major league level in the outfield, and Jet Williams can play out there as well. So I like where the infield sets up because it gives you now, I think, more of a safety valve, so to speak, for a Joey Ortiz if he performs at the plate like he did in 2025.
Last question for you, Hunter. Going back to the pitching, you throw in, Sproats on this. You look at this roster. Obviously, Brandon Woodruff now, the veteran of this group, but you've got Jacob Mizorowski, Chad Patrick, Quinn Priester, all these guys that actually have like starting experience mixed in here too, and some of them, probably coming out of the bullpen. I don't know what the plan would be for Aaron Ashby and such, but what's your thoughts on this? Because to me, when I look at this, I'm like, this is a unique makeup of their 40-man roster when you just look at the pitchers, because you've got so many guys that have started games. You throw in even a Logan Henderson and a DL Hall. You think this is by design too, where they can have that flexibility? Because last year, too, we opened up the season and their starters were so banged up, they had to be going out there to try to find a Quinn Priester to go acquire.
For sure, and super excited to see what he can do in year two as a Brewer. And I think, so I think this is a big reason why they made this deal and felt comfortable making this deal, is because they have so many guys. Now, they're not as proven as Freddie Peralta, obviously, but they have so many guys that have so much potential. We saw the type of potential from every single one of those guys you mentioned. Logan Henderson, another guy to throw in there. Like you wonder where they're all going to fit. Obviously, some are going to be starters and probably some in the bullpen as well. But I do think it's also great to have Brandon Woodruff as your ace now. You're in a really good spot if Brandon Woodruff is your opening day starter, which all signs would point to that being the case. Matt Arnold saying last night that Woodruff is on pace to, he's healthy and he's on pace and having a normal offseason, which is great. So with that being the case, you love that. And then Brandon Woodruff says, all right, kids, let's get on the bus and see where we can go. It's kind of like all the young guys behind him. Now, Aaron Ashby's obviously a little more experienced and a couple guys, but otherwise you got a lot of young guys, a lot of guys who made their major league debuts last year. And I think that is, having a off season where you have major league experience now, and for a lot of them, major league success, whether it be for a small stint or a longer stint, I think that helps, because then you can really focus in on what you need to in the off season and come in knowing you're in all likelihood, making that major league roster and have a legitimate chance at an opening day rotation spot. So I think that can only help you mentally for some of those players as well. So yeah, I like how it sets up, and I think Sproat is definitely going to compete for that. I would, do they maybe have him as a long relief role, maybe, but I also think he could be very enticing when it comes to maybe backing up right, like you have Mizorowski as your 2, and who knows in the future, but maybe a Sproat as your 3, right? You have a guy one night that's throwing 100 plus, and then Sproat comes in and he's hitting 99 and 100. Like that could be really enticing and really fun to watch for Brewers fans. So I think this is a reason why the Brewers made this deal, is because they were trading away from a position of depth. And I think it's going to be tested a little bit, obviously, without Freddie Peralta, because you have some unproven guys as far as longevity in the major leagues, but you have a ton of upside in that pitching staff.
Fantastic stuff. Hunter Baumgart, Brewers reporter for Fox Sports 920 in Milwaukee. We really appreciate your insight, your expertise on this, and hanging out with us this morning, dude. Awesome stuff. If you are a listener, make sure you are following Hunter on X/Twitter at Hunter B on air, Facebook, Hunter Baumgart Sports. We're going to share that up there too. Dude, appreciate it as always, man. Stay warm though too, okay? I don't know if you're going to be getting the frigid like we are up here and up north. So, well, you worked at Tomahawk, so you got to be used to it a little bit, so, right?
Exactly, 100%. That definitely made me used to it. I think everybody's getting it here in Wisconsin this weekend. So yeah, everybody stay warm, and baseball season will be right around the corner, right before right coming around. So I can't wait. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Hunter. There you go, Hunter joining us this morning. Good stuff from Hunter. Awesome stuff. We appreciate it with him. All right, we got to take a really quick break because we got to wrap up shop. We got some picks to get to here, so we'll do that. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Big thanks again to Hunter Baumgart for joining us this morning to talk some Brewers. Make sure you're following him on Facebook, Twitter. I just shared his Facebook page on my Facebook page over there. So great insights from Hunter, who covers the Brewers for Fox Sports 920 down in Milwaukee. All right, we got a few minutes left. So, intern, let's make some picks. Let's start off in the NBA world. We've got the Hornets taking on the Magic. Who are you going to roll with?
Magic.
Yeah, I'm going to go Magic, too. Although, 90s Dan here would love this matchup if they'd go throwback uniforms. Just saying. So, Houston taking on the Philadelphia 76ers.
Rockets.
Yep, Rockets, too. Denver at Washington.
Denver.
Nuggets. Golden State at Dallas.
The Mavs.
Ooh, I'm going to go Golden State. Chicago, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Spurs and Utah.
Spurs.
Lakers, Clippers.
Give me the Clippers.
I'll go Lakers, but I wouldn't be surprised. Miami and Portland.
Miami.
Yeah, I'm going to go Miami. So let's do some college basketball because we do have the Badgers in action tonight as well. But let's do a couple other different picks here. Let me bring up that's not the schedule I want. Here we go. So, hey, we got Green Bay at Youngstown State. Shout out Doug Gottlieb in that group. I mean, they got a winning record. They're 11-9, way better than what they were last year.
Better.
So, yeah, why not? I'll go Green Bay.
Yeah, give me Green Bay.
Yeah. And then Wisconsin at Penn State.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, come on, Wisconsin. How about Milwaukee, UW Milwaukee at Robert Morris? So the State, I don't think Marquette's in action tonight, though. Milwaukee is 8-12 so far this year.
I'll take Milwaukee.
All right.
Why not?
Screw it. Why not? Why not? Go with them. So, is there any other? No, I don't think so. Not a whole lot of great matchups tonight, it looks like. So, all right. There you have it. Those are our picks for this morning. Is there anything? Nope. Oh, nope. Just making sure I had to refresh. Make sure. Christian McCaffrey is believed. This is from Schefter. So we were talking about the award nominations that came out. Christian McCaffrey is believed to be the first player in NFL history to be a finalist for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, and Comeback Player of the Year all in the same season. That wouldn't surprise me if Christian McCaffrey is the first one.
Can you win them all?
He can win them all. Yeah.
That would be
insane.
Yeah.
That really would be insane. And it wouldn't surprise me if Christian McCaffrey was the guy to do it.
Yeah.
So, hey, before I let you go, though, because we only got a couple minutes, we need your Super Bowl picks. Who you think's going to win championship weekend, New England or Denver?
If Bo Nix was in, I'd pick Denver. I don't know if Jarrett Stidham will be able to move the ball, so I'll take the Patriots.
Mm-hmm. And then we've got Seahawks and Rams.
I picked the Rams at the start of the year for my Super Bowl pick, so we're just going to go with the Rams. We're going to ride them.
All right, so we get Broncos and Rams in the Super Bowl for intern Carter's picks. So is there a team that you're hitching your wagon to?
Well, I did like Bo Nix, and then he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the Rams. I mean, maybe.
I wouldn't mind seeing Devontae get a ring.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing I got going right now.
I like McVay.
Yeah. I really don't want the Patriots to go, but I think they're going to. I'll just say that.
Patriots,
right now,
I don't really want the Seahawks to go either. I mean, they're fine, but yeah, I'd probably have to say the Rams.
I'm probably with the Rams too. Even though I'm not a big, unless it's my team, another team winning multiple Super Bowls while my team is there, but I want to dislike the Rams, but I can't.
My top two would be Rams Broncos, which obviously means it's going to be Patriots Seahawks. So.
Yep. Yeah. Ugh. I don't want that. I'll sit here for 2 weeks and say I'm not going to watch it, and then I'll spend my whole day getting ready to watch it.
Yes.
So just like everybody else out there, that's what it's going to be. So, all right. Shot clock is going to cut us off. So everybody out there, stay warm. Stay warm. Be safe. If you got to work outside today, tomorrow especially, be safe. If you got the kiddos, the pets, or whatever, make sure they're safe too. And don't forget to check out our school closings and delays on our website, sportstalk1051.com, brought to you by Hovland's and ServiceMaster. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Chat with you then.